Morning, everybody. It's 8:30, and we'll call this morning's meeting of the Clay County Board of Commissioners to order for Tuesday, July 15th. Our first item is the approval of the agenda, and under the consent, we do have 3 items, and Administrator Lyson would like to just make a brief comment on item A.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you recall, earlier this year, the board took a look at our riparian aid funds and designated those dollars into specific categories for funding. As part of that discussion, one of the questions were, would the board be notified if funds were spent out of that riparian aid, to which at the presentation we said that they would. And so what we're looking to do with the riparian aid moving forward would be, we have 2 commissioners that are part of that committee, that we would reach out to them and ask them if they support the utilization of that based on the criteria that this board established. And if they did approve of that funding, rather than bringing the committee together and bringing our staff and paying a per diem, we would bring that to the consent agenda item. It would also then serve the point of keeping, showing how that riparian aid, out of which category that it was being spent for our documentation. And so with that, we have that on the consent agenda this morning. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bear, second by Commissioner Ebinger. Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Our next item is citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard on items not on the agenda in the audience? And I'm assuming we have none online?
And online, Mr.
Right.
Chair.
Next, we have the approval of bills and vouchers.
Offer approval?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mojo, second by Commissioner Krabenhoft. Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Approval of minutes from July 1st.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, July 1st, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bear, second by Commissioner Ebinger. Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. All right, we'll move into our 8:35 item. Request approved to hire a full-time deputy sheriff due to resignation. Good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thanks for having me here this morning. I am here to request to replace a deputy who has indicated that he is going to be leaving the sheriff's office after 17 years. Deputy Lee is going to go into the private sector. We are happy for Deputy Lee. We're sad for us, but we wish him the very best in his next chapter in life. He spent several years as our SRO up in Ulen-Hitterdal School District, and he was also one of our SWAT team negotiators. So it's a big loss for us, but we're very happy for him. With this request, you will find the wage calculator that was put in your packet as well. And you can see that this is a $13,560 savings if we were to replace Deputy Lee by December 1st. I don't know if we would be able to get somebody hired by that time. We're still not getting a lot of applications when we put advertisements out there.
Questions?
One question.
Yes.
With the SRO up in Ulen, do you open that up to everybody in staff to apply for that position, or how does that work?
That is correct, yeah. We will open that up in-house for all the deputies to apply to see if there is somebody interested in that position.
All right. Commissioner Ebinger.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to hire full-time deputy sheriff.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Ebinger, second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion carried. And I did neglect to mention that in the consent agenda, there was also another donation that was made on behalf of the canine program by John Caverno, am I pronouncing?
I believe that's how you pronounce it, yes.
Okay, if I pronounce it right, but anyway, we certainly appreciate those contributions to the canine program. So, all right, next we have request approval of the purchase of Cradlepoints for the sheriff's office. You've got reinforcements up here for this one.
Yeah. Well, this is the IT guy. He knows what he's doing, and the chief deputy put up a good memo as it pertains to how we're going to pay for this. What Cradlepoints are is that they're like a Wi-Fi internet connection for our squad car. So we would be able to replace our SIM cards that we currently have in our cars for this. They're going to dramatically increase our uploading of squad car videos. With the Cradlepoints, we would be able to upload our squad car videos from anywhere within Clay County, where currently we have to have deputies drive back to the law enforcement center or our south side storage to be able to download videos. We have been running into some issues lately to where those videos haven't been downloading in a timely manner, and then we're not able to get those videos to the county attorney's office, the city attorney's office, or court. And then that causes kind of a disruption in the court service with our county attorney and everything. So this is to streamline some things, make things a lot more efficient, not only within the sheriff's office, but for IT, for the county attorney's office, for courts, in hopes that these will work as they should. So what would happen is when the deputy stops their video in their car, it'll automatically upload into the cloud. Thus, hopefully, we won't get a bunch of videos sitting in the queue, and then, like I said, wherever they're at, they're able to download those videos. So if you get something that happens at the end of their shift, maybe one deputy's coming into town to transport somebody to the correctional facility, the other two deputies are heading home, their videos are gonna upload as they're driving home, and we'd have them right away in the morning. Its cost per unit is about $2,231. That is for 5 years. We pay about $200 per year for the net cloud service per unit, and the other $1,200 would be for the equipment and things of that nature. Again, we'd be able to remove our SIM cards from our vehicles. We pay about $1,000 to $1,100 per month for those SIM cards, so that would be a potential of a $12,000 savings there. And then I'll turn it over to the chief deputy if he wants to review how we would pay for it, and then if Rory has anything as well after.
What we looked at was, we knew we had 4 positions this year that went either unfilled or partially unfilled for the year, and we did up worksheets for each of those positions to see what the net savings would be for the 2025 fiscal year. When we looked at Deputy Lee, who will be leaving, we also had to look at or subtract the payout that was going to be going to him for his vacation and leave time. So those numbers should be actual dollars, according to the worksheets, that we'd be looking at savings for the year of 2025, which is almost $75,000, so well above the amount that would be needed to cover the costs for the next 5 years for the Cradlepoints. We would look to take it out of this year's budget to pick up those Cradlepoints.
Correct.
The other thing that the sheriff didn't mention was the amount of time that Rory's staff has been putting into this, and the amount of time that our deputies are taking when it's not working. They're coming into the station or going to self-storage to do these uploads, and they have to wait there at times hours to get a few videos to upload. These would keep essentially our deputies out on the streets and in the public for more time for the year.
Is there was there an advantage by paying the 5 years in advance, or was that the only option available?
That was the only option available through Code 4. We could
Do
do,
you have yes,
I'm sorry, we could do a 3-year option as well, but for less of a cost, but the 5 years seems to be probably the better way for us at this point.
okay. Roy, did you have a comment?
Just one other addition here. From speaking to other counties, it seems like the cellular signal of these devices is improved out on the road as well versus the internal SIM card on the laptops that we have in the squads. So that's one more benefit to going with this solution.
Okay, Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sheriff and staff, for pulling this together. I think there's so many variables here that really point to this being probably the best case scenario for not only the department, but Rory's department. And, you know, I really think that we need to honor staff when they have, when their off time is. And so it gets tricky when all of a sudden you're requiring folks to come in when they're not on shift for several hours to make sure this is done. And I know there's an overlap too with the attorney's office and with the courts, things that are needed maybe the next day. So certainly when it comes down to the financial point, it seems to make the most sense. So I would make a motion to approve the request as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Mojo, second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion?
Just one comment.
Yes, Commissioner Bear.
This makes sense also that most of our deputies live in rural Clay County. So instead of having them drive into Moorhead every day to upload those pictures, it makes sense that they can do it when they're out making more, being present in the community, so.
Any further discussion? I think our county attorney would be appreciative of this as well for your purposes.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I join in with everything that Sheriff Emding's talked about. It definitely will help us and help make sure we're getting things timely, so.
Very good, thank you. All right, anything else? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. All right, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a request to hire a motor grader operator. We have another resignation.
Yes, good morning. So the item I have today is requesting approval to hire a motor grader operator due to a recent resignation. This is a budgeted position, and as per union policy, this position would have to be posted internally for 5 days. So I don't have it on the board agenda information sheet, but I would be looking for backfill in case somebody does internally apply for it.
I'll make a motion to approve the hiring of a motor grade operator with backfill.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kravinoff, second by Commissioner Bear. Any further discussion on the motion? Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. All right.
Thank you.
Justin, thank you. All right, next, we have a request approval to replace registered nurse position in public health. Morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. This is a request to replace a nurse position that is soon to be vacated. This individual has only been here since 2022, so there wouldn't be a whole lot of savings. You see the salary calculation as it's being handed out, but there wouldn't be a lot of savings. We're finding that we need to negotiate sometimes starting on step one, especially nurses, if they have any amount of experience. That's a hard sell. So it's a budgeted position in our adult health program.
One question.
Yes, Commissioner Bear.
How many nurses are we trying to hire right now in your department?
6,
Would this be number 6 or number 7?
number 6.
And how long have we been trying?
For a few months, we did hire one nurse so far, but it's pretty difficult when we have quite a few openings.
Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to advertise and hire a full-time registered nurse position for public health.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Bear, second by Commissioner Ebinger. So is this a RN position?
Correct, RN. Mhm.
No, are we filling in at all with LPNs or?
In the programs of adult health and our family health, we cannot use LPNs. In detox, we can use the LPNs, but we cannot use those in these programs.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Aye.
4-1. All right, next we have the budget presentation from Barnesville Ambulance. Yeah, make sure it's
Make
green.
sure it's green, hit the button.
There you go.
I'm Avril Whiteford, the director of Barnesville Ambulance. You guys probably haven't met me yet. I've only been the director for about 2 years now. So I was coming to you guys because, as you probably have heard around the area, all ambulance services are kind of struggling in North Dakota, Minnesota, and around the country with their budgets. Barnesville Ambulance is no exception. Thankfully, we do have a lot of community support compared to most ambulance services, some of which are actually shutting down, but we still do have quite a few struggles to find volunteers. I was just going to give you a brief introduction. This is Brad. He was our EMT of the year for 2024. He was volunteering for us for the last 13 years. Our volunteers staff was making $1 an hour for the last 13 years. We have actually moved from that $1 an hour to all paid staff within the last year, which is going to be the biggest difference in our budget. We don't have many people like Brad left who are willing to volunteer for that $1 an hour. People don't have the time and they don't have the money to give those resources anymore. We were established in 1966 and we've been providing services for the whole southern half of Clay County for the last 59 years. Our medical director is the same as Sanford Ambulance, Dr. Jason Van Velkenberg from the Sanford ER. So for me, we have me, the ambulance director. We have 6 community educators on our department and 2 more that will be added at the end of this month. We have 2 EMRs, 19 EMTs, 11 paramedics, and 4 peer support staff for us.
Yes.
Are all those paid positions? Full-
Yes, they are paid positions, but we only pay people to staff 24 hours a day to staff, like to staff the ambulance.
So that's the only fully paid position, is it?
That's the only fully paid position.
So these community educators, they're donating their time?
They get paid, but they get paid based off of, they only get paid for jobs that we get paid for, like if they teach a CPR class or things like that, but they actually bring in more money than they.
So if like community ed, if I will, if community ed puts on a training class, they're getting paid during that time to put on, the workup to the class and the actual class, but then oftentimes that's recouped by what community ed.
That's always more than recouped by what community ed does. All of our community ed money actually goes towards supplementing the ambulance service.
Okay.
As well as, we have several ways, I'll go into that further
Okay.
in the presentation, but our community education, our standbys, and basically anything we do extra goes back into supplementing the actual ambulance service and our actual work. There are things that we've picked up to try and supplement the costs of what we do. So we provide 24/7 911 response. We have ALS availability greater than 90% of the time. We provide community education and CPR for daycares, healthcare providers, and local youth groups in our community. We do EMR and EMT training programs in the area. Refresher courses for safety officers at local companies, refresher courses for local fire, rescue, and PD, babysitting safety preparation courses, and all of the money from those courses goes back into the ambulance and helping us keep our doors open. Peer support, our peer support teams, that is a volunteer service that we have where we offer immediate diffusings and debriefings and resources for our emergency staff and the community after critical incidences. And then we also cover many special events that help supplement our income, such as the Rolla Steam Threshers Reunion, the Fargo Forest Youth Tournament, hockey tournaments here, FM Derby Girls Meets, local concerts, Potato Days, the Clay County Fair, and many others. Any events that we can pick up to try and supplement our income, we try and do that. We do the upkeep of the Barnesville emergency sirens as well. We provide continuing education for Sabin Fire, Holly Hurt, Cardinal Glass, and others. We do provide mutual aid for Sanford and Pelican Ambulance. We do other ambulance services as well, but those are the two most frequent. We cover 442 square miles within Clay County and Wilkin County. It's just a tiny section of Wilkin County. It's mostly all in Clay, but we do have a small section of Wilkin County as well.
One question there. Nothing in Otter Tail, or do you also cover some in Otter Tail County?
We don't officially have anything in Otter Tail. I think we cover like half a mile once we go over towards Rothsay, just a teeny tiny bit, but it's not enough to even add to our coverage square mileage. We do sometimes, though, do mutual aid there.
Jenny, did you have a?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. Seeing though that you offer aid with Pelican Rapids Rescue, I mean,
That's if they request us. So that is something that is actually set by the state. We have to have, for our PSAs, everybody has to have mutual aid agreements with certain other ambulance services where you allow people to come into your territory. So in the state of Minnesota, you have a set PSA that you are required to cover by the government, and nobody else. Like, if you were in an ambulance and you happen to be going through a PSA, you can't pick up somebody there just because you see an accident happen in front of you and you're the closest ambulance. You can't just help that person. That's against the law. So we have like preset agreements where we can call Pelican and be like, oh, hey, I was bringing somebody to Fergus, and on our way back, we saw this accident. Do you want us to pick this person up? Or they could be like, we were already on an accident, and we've got like 5 patients here. We don't have enough ambulances. Can you come and pick one of them up? Just things like that. So it's not a super frequent event. It's just an occasional when they ask us to.
So without trying to jump too far ahead into your, I mean, I think we're here, so maybe I might ask this question, given what the response area is and given those PSAs, and also given deficits in regards to budgets, I know it's tricky. Has there been discussion with Sanford on a realignment on those PSAs for Southern Clay County at all?
Like, you mean to have Sanford cover it?
So if I'm looking at this map that, I don't know if our staff gave it or you provided it, to see what the coverage area for Sanford Ambulance for Clay County is, and then what Barnesville Ambulances is?
Yes.
I mean, has that been part of a dialogue with Sanford?
Sanford has no interest in that. Yes, we have talked to Sanford about that. They have no interest in taking over our coverage area. It would be a tremendous cost to them. They already have tremendous costs that they've been trying to look at for covering their own service area, such as Ullin, Hitterdal. Right now, when they can, they staff an ambulance in Glendon, but oftentimes the response times out to there is 40 minutes or more. And we don't want people waiting 40 minutes for an ambulance. That's why we're trying to keep our service going in the southern half of Clay County, because we are closer to a lot of things. And we will oftentimes actually, if Sanford asks, we will even go into their territory and provide coverage for them.
Okay. Last follow-up question on that piece. If they ask to cover, is there a reimbursement rate from Sanford?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, that's if, sorry, I should say that's if there is like, if you were to do an intercept, there's a reimbursement rate. If you just cover someone's call, you get paid out for that call entirely, and you do the billing for it.
Okay.
I should say.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other questions about that part? Okay. So as far as actual towns, we serve the towns of Barnesville, Baker, and Rolog. We cover 27.5 miles of the interstate from mile marker 10 to mile marker 37.5 near Rothsay. We work with Holly Emergency Rescue, Rothsay, Pelican, and Sabin Rescues on scenes sometimes, as well as any of the local fire departments who show up to our scenes. How often we are needed. So the last few years, we've been needed around the high 300s to 400 times a year. It's not incredibly often compared to how often Sanford is needed, but it is still fairly frequently for the members of our community. And that kind of gives you a breakdown there of the types of calls that we're getting. So the black is going to be calls that are Barnesville calls. The lighter blue is townships. The dark blue is on the interstate. And then the tiny purple one is our mutual aid to Sanford. And the larger purple one are transfers that we have added this last year to try and supplement our income, because transfers do give more income than actual calls for service usually.
I have a question there.
Sure.
Out of all, I added, it's about 411 calls last year. How many of those are actually transports to the hospital that you came on the scene, need to get someone to the hospital?
I have that, I think, further down, but I believe it was, of all of that, everybody was transferred to the hospital. I believe it was only 277 were transported to the hospital. There is a variety of reasons not to transfer people to the hospital, between people refusing care and self-transporting, people no longer needing our care, which is one of the things that probably is the biggest for us, is we do a lot of on-scene care where then we don't get reimbursed for that. So ambulances are considered transportation services still. They're not actually considered medical services. So we can't bill for medical services rendered. We can only bill for transportation. So if we don't transport, we don't get to bill. We can bill like a tiny little $250 for showing up, but that's about what we get for that call, which doesn't cover a lot of our more expensive calls. Like if somebody were to have a diabetic reaction, we can go there and they're unresponsive, barely breathing. We have to get out a bag, we have to breathe for them, we have to use oxygen, we have to start an IV, we have to give D10, maybe we have to give a glucagon shot, and those shots are almost $300 each. So we're using all these medications. That person comes back around. Their insurance usually isn't going to cover any of that if they want to go be admitted to the hospital, and they'll know that, or unless they get admitted. If they're just going to the ER and they don't need anything, so half of them will be like, no, I don't want to go, I'll just eat a sandwich, I can manage my diabetes from here, I just couldn't do it because I was unconscious, right? But then we're not transporting them, so we're not getting reimbursed anything for that other than $250, which isn't even covering the one shot, let alone the bags, the IVs, the gas for getting there, the time, any of that.
You can't bill that individual,
No,
any of that?
cannot.
Only the 250?
No, that is a different thing that we have been working on with, like, legislation, is getting us recognized as a medical service instead of a transportation service, but that is a long ways down. As well as we've been working on, unlike law enforcement and fire departments, you guys probably know we're not considered an essential service, so we don't qualify for like state and federal grants like law enforcement and fire departments do. So that has been like the biggest thing that's holding EMS back from getting funding and keeping themselves going, moving forward.
Isn't there, Steve, isn't there some recent legislation though that they could qualify for? Is that-
Yeah, this legislative session, there were some different issues, or different things that were passed along for operating deficits. I think uncompensated care pools and earn while you learn grants. And I did pass that on to Barnesville.
Yeah, I did see that, and hopefully that will be something that will start to help us here with some of our deficits, but we're already pretty far behind. That is gonna be something that might help us in the future as we get along and as we get more of it, but there's gonna need to be a lot more legislation before ambulance services will start being functional. With that being said, too, another one of our biggest one is cardiac arrest. If we go to a cardiac arrest, we're going there and we're using our monitors, we're putting on pads, we're intubating the patient. There's nothing that can be done for most cardiac arrests in the hospital that we can't do on scene anymore with the technology that has advanced in our care. So we can go there and we can do everything that can be done in the hospital. And if it ends up that we call it on scene because we've done everything that can be done and the person isn't going to survive, well, then it's not a transport. But we're not going to transport that person and then just leave the family with the bill because that's unfair to them. So we're going to leave them on scene, and then we just eat that cost for whatever happened with that patient. And those can be tremendous bills with those. So that is something that has cost us a lot over the years, and that's something that we have to look at more legislation, but that's part of why we're growing more and more deficit, is we can't bill for a lot of the services that we do that are our most high-priced services.
Averill,
When you have your, you mentioned like you might have to use some diabetic procedures that cost you a lot of money. Are there, you have access to discounted prices for that stuff? Or where do you get that?
Yes, so we have access to discounted prices compared to what most people pay. We're not paying like what most people are paying. We get most of our medications through the Sanford pharmacy. Actually, Sanford ambulance in Sanford in general has been very good to us as a rural service and has helped us to keep our doors open. Sanford ambulance has been very good to a lot of rural services and helping them. They call us their sister service all the time. And we get most of our medications through their pharmacy, because even like the places that most ambulances get theirs, they cannot price match what Sanford will do for us. However, some stuff is just still very expensive.
Steve, did you have
just a quick question, Mr. Chair, thank you. Averill, in that email that I sent you, there's a link that, for a web meeting that talked about the funding. Were you able to participate in that web meeting?
No, I ended up getting a call on the day of that meeting. I really wanted to do it, but I was not able to participate. That's the problem with rural services, is I'm almost always on call. So if a call comes out, there I go. Ready for the next one? So this is a breakdown of kind of what you guys, I think, were asking before, where this is calls that are actually in the town of Barnesville versus calls that are in the county versus calls that we get outside of the county in like Wilkin, Otter Tail, other places. Is that little... As you can see, we kind of have expanded there in 2024. That's mostly our transfers. Like I said, we're doing transfers out of Detroit Lakes and Fergus Falls now, trying to supplement our income because those do pay more money than actual calls, and we're obviously always transporting transfers so we can always bill for them.
So I have a question there. So if you're doing a transfer, say from Detroit Lakes to Fargo, and you have a call in Barnesville, what happens then?
So we only send transfers to a second crew. So our primary staffing is always staffed. When we get the opportunity to do a transfer, we page it out, and if there's other people who are not on call who are available, they can take our secondary truck and do that transfer. And our primary truck is always within our PSA.
All right.
All right. Okay. So, and then this is kind of a breakdown of the last few years of what everybody has been paying to help supplement our service. So this is what we were getting from financing our taxes. As you can see, we've significantly raised our taxes the last couple of years in the city of Barnesville. That's why we were asking for so much. I know that you guys probably noticed it was quite an increase from what we have asked from you guys in the past. Kind of hoping to keep that, what we're getting from the townships, what we're getting from you guys at like the 25%-ish range of what we overall get. So we're not asking so much from just the citizens of Barnesville and spreading out amongst people.
Can I ask a question? I've only had one cup of coffee, so the numbers aren't numbering here for me. Can you explain like the 160,000, 300,000? What does that mean?
Okay, so the 160,000 is the taxes that came from the city of Barnesville in 2024, and then the 300,000 is the taxes that are already coming in 2025, and that we expect to continue to come in 2026, because we're hoping not to double them again in 2026.
So these are levy dollars
Yes.
that are being appropriated for each entity there, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Or these are just for the ambulance.
correct.
Yes.
My question there is, if you look at why are we picking up more of the tab other than the city of Barnesville should be picking up just the same percentage we have? Why are we getting hit with that bill and the city of Barnesville isn't having an increase?
The city of Barnesville is the one that's at 300,000. The 25,000 is the township.
I know, but if you look at last year's was 300,000 for Barnesville at 84%.
Yeah.
This year that you're asking for 26 is 300,000 at 75%.
That's because last year we had doubled theirs from 160 to 300,000 and we had asked you guys for an increase, which had been denied.
Can I ask?
So we came to ask for it this year.
Okay, and maybe if I might, I guess where maybe the confusion, I see that you're trying to get the pie closer to what 2024 was, but I think it was 2022 or one, we went from 10,000 to 30,000, right?
2022.
Okay.
That's correct. I think basically they've been asking for like 1,000 each year they hadn't been putting our budget into it at all. They had just
Okay.
nobody had been looking at the budget. I just started here like 2 years ago
Yep,
and started looking at the budget. Before that, they were just like, oh, Clay County sometimes gives us money. Let's ask them for 1,000, ask them for 1,000. And that's what they were doing.
Okay, and then
And we were
for
just continuing our
45,000?
deficit of $70,000 or more a year,
Okay,
is what was happening.
okay.
So I have a question, going back. You've turned everybody into full-time that goes on calls?
We've turned them into part-time.
Part-time? If Holly Hurt, Yulin Rescue, Felton Rescue, they can find volunteers to staff their rescue squads, how are you guys having a tough time finding those volunteers?
They're not transporting ambulance services, they're rescue squads.
I know, but they still have volunteers for all those positions.
They do not. I don't know if you've talked to them, but they definitely.
I just was at a meeting yesterday with Felton.
With Felton?
They have a fully staffed rescue squad.
Are you talking about fire? Or
No,
are you talking about
Their rescue
their
squad.
rescue squad?
Their rescue squad.
Because I know people on their rescue squad, and they have been talking to me about their struggles. I guess
They still have a fully volunteer staff there that goes out to calls and waits for Sanford to show up to.
I guess on Sanford, we often go to Felton, and they don't have anybody available to go to scenes to meet us. We usually meet one of the deputies on scene. I have rarely seen a Felton volunteer show up to a call, but that, I don't know, I guess, without going up and talking to them personally. That's a good question.
I'm just saying, you said you're having a tough time finding volunteers for this.
Yes, as most
Barnesville's
people are.
the largest city out of the metro, and you guys are having a tough time finding volunteers, so you're gonna go part-time paid positions.
Yes.
A jump of $45,000 is quite a bit for everybody in the county to pick up that tab, and double taxing the city of Barnesville and the townships on that.
Well, we were already doing that before we were doing the part-time. We had to do that before we were doing the part-time. The part-time, we're actually supplementing with all the other things that we've been picking up, such as the transfers, the CPR courses, other things like that. We're trying very hard to supplement, but we're gonna, if we can't, we couldn't staff our ambulance. If we can't staff it, we're gonna lose our PSA. If we lose our PSA, it's a 40-minute drive for people who are in cardiac arrest. If you have a cardiac arrest and it's 40 minutes till someone gets there, you're not surviving.
No, I understand that.
That just is what it is. You can say that Belton is staffing if you want to, but I am on Sanford Ambulance as well, and I go to those calls. They're not showing up on the calls, so.
All right, you want to continue with your? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dave, I didn't see your hand up there.
Have you discussed an increase from Barnesville? Have you asked to work that into your budget? Or are they gonna stay static at 300,000?
I think for this year, they'll probably stay static at 300,000 for this year, just because we did have that large increase last year. And we're hoping to just try and supplement our income with that and see how it goes, and see at the end of this year if we can get that all working together.
And are the townships in any way, is there any kind of discussion on that?
Yes, we actually met with the townships, and they were all very receptive. So the townships in the past, when you guys were talking about your budget, they actually were only paying, I think, like 4,000 or 5,000 in the past. So we've also increased them quite a bit, as you could see from that last slide. And they have actually asked to pay more after we had this meeting with them, and so they were willing to do that, and we were gonna negotiate something with them this fall before their budgets come up.
And again, you know, there was a lot of work in public safety to get some legislation through. Have you familiarized yourself enough to where you can apply for the funding that is coming from the state?
Yes.
So you've got an application in, or?
I don't have my application in yet, but we put our application in for the last one that came this last year that covered, I think like 70% of a new ambulance for us, because our one ambulance had broken down. That's another part of our budget, is just covering an ambulance. One ambulance is close to $1.5 million completely stocked. Thankfully, our ambulances are stocked, but they're still quite expensive, and keeping up our materials is quite expensive. This meeting is just about meeting our deficits. In theory, we would also like to buy things and keep up our equipment in the future too, not just meet our deficits.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Chair,
Yes.
just a quick question, Averill. Several years ago, when the request came in from Barnesville, I did get a document that broke down the county, Wilkin County, Clay County, and then townships. It looks like it was based on some valuations, and then your budget was broken down on a percentage based on that valuation. Is that still how it's done, or it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. This is just a quick overview of kind of what day of the week and what time of day we're getting calls. Mostly always the same, except for that 2 a.m. We're getting probably the least amount of calls in that time frame. This is the top 5 reasons in 2024 when we broke down that we were needed. Our top reason was acute injury due to traumas, mostly falls and motor vehicle accidents, as we do have a nursing home in our area. We do have a lot of falls, and then we have that large area of the interstate, so we do have a lot of motor vehicle accidents, as well as Highway 9. We cover a good portion of that. The next one was sepsis, chest pain, difficulty breathing, and seizures for our most frequent requests for service this year. Our top 5 medications we gave were fentanyl, epinephrine, Zofran, albuterol, and Versed, which kind of goes along that same line of reasons we were called. We administered 156 medications, placed 114 IVs, did 119 12 leads. 37 pain management patients, 7 advanced airway placements such as intubations or eye gels, 3 CPAP placements, and 3 IO placements. In 2024, we billed out $654,314 for service, and we've collected around $248,075.21 of that. We had to write off $330 or $330,164.34 in Medicare and Medicaid discounts and other insurance discounts. So that is another thing that we have. Medicare and Medicaid, as I'm sure you are aware, have set discounts that they basically demand of people. Other insurance companies go by the same discounts as Medicare and Medicaid by default. Companies such as Sanford will negotiate some of those and get a little bit higher rate from some of the other insurance companies. However, we don't have the ability to do that because we can say, okay, well, Barnesville Ambulance won't cover your services then, and they don't care. Whereas if Sanford's like, well, we won't cover you in any Sanford facilities, they do care about that, but they don't care if Barnesville Ambulance says that. So we don't have the negotiation power that larger ambulance services do. So basically, everybody gets the same write-offs as Medicare and Medicaid, which is once again something that they've been working on in legislation to try and change a little bit. I don't think it's been getting very far recently, but it is what it is. $40,988.63 has gone to collections in 2024. We have moved to the majority of paid staff in December of 2024. Anyhow, we appreciate any continued support that we get from you, and any other questions?
I know I can't ask you to explain how Sanford does things, but just looking at this chart, and we look at so we basically, in Clay County, we have 2 different emergency medical providers, and one is Barnesville Ambulance, and one is Sanford Ambulance. Sanford Ambulance does not ask Clay County for any funding. Is that all based on their ability to bill? Is there something different what's the process that's different for them, do you know?
So, like you saw our 400 and some calls a year, Sanford Ambulance gets about 40,000 calls a year. So that is probably one of the biggest differences for them for meeting their budget goals. As well as they have the hospital backing them. They do interfacility transfers. I don't know if you've ever gone to Sanford, you've heard about somebody getting sent from the ER to Broadway. They get paid from Sanford for every patient that goes from the ER to Broadway. That goes from the one Sanford account to the Sanford ambulance account. Like, it really helps with their call volume.
Okay, and can you tell me how long these service areas have been in existence? I'm looking at some of the Barnesville ambulance area, and it seems like there's an awful lot of it that's much closer to Sanford Fargo than it is to Barnesville.
I don't know about that. It's been in existence since 1966. I don't think that there's anything that's closer to Sanford than it is to Barnesville, though. As a matter of fact, some of Sanford's is actually closer to Barnesville than it is to Sanford. Like, I know I can get to their Ulen-Hitterdall territory in about 25 minutes, and it takes them almost 40. Their closest posting to our territory is either going to be post 1, which is going to be in Fargo on 25th Street and I-94, or it's going to be post 2, which is going to be here in North Moorhead.
Right.
Or, well, south
Center
of it,
Avenue, yeah.
technically, just
Center
south of,
Yeah.
by the Hornbachers there.
I think that far west boundary of yours, if they have the ability to jump on 29 and go south, I do think that's when I had asked that question earlier about re-looking at that PSA, that's that corner that seems to be curious to me as to why they've not.
I-94 at mile marker 11?
No, if you just, the far west side, kind of, that County
West
7,
is I-94 at mile marker 11.
pardon?
Our farthest west is I-94 and mile marker 11.
Down on County 7.
No, I'm looking at down County 7 on 40th Street South, way west.
Oh, you're talking about outside of Comstock?
Yeah,
We can take, so the city of Barnesville is right here, and we go out that way. That's about less than 15-minute drive for us.
right, I'm saying
And
it's
Sam.
curious to me that Sanford hasn't been willing to pick something like that up. If you look at their broader coverage to the greater,
Closest post to that is going to be post 1, which is 25th Street and I-94. That's still going to be over a 20-minute drive. I've done a lot of calls in Comstock. It takes me about 23 minutes to get there from post 1. Even, yeah.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so do you work for Sanford Ambulance as well?
Yes.
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I just want to preface by saying I had a kid that was in one of your ambulances this weekend, and I just want to say that
Sorry to hear that.
professionalism, he's fine, but the professionalism and the care was high standard, so congratulations on
I'm
that.
glad to hear that.
I appreciate the service that you provide to Clay County, and I'm really grateful for that. With that said, I'll also say that I know nationwide, there are many counties that have ambulance deserts, and so that's something that rural residents are painfully aware of, and grateful that Clay County doesn't have such a desert. So I know that that's hard to continue that level of service, given the climate of reimbursement rates and insurances and refusal to transport, all of those pieces. I am gonna say that, it's a really tricky budget time. And you'll hear in the upcoming presentations that there's a great amount of uncertainty about what budgets, federal decisions mean for our budgets locally, and there are gonna be some really difficult decisions here. And to that, Clay County's been really active in lobbying for changes in legislation that will allow services like yours to continue. So I'm glad that I think you've worked with Senator Kupek and Representative Joy on those pieces statewide, but this really needs to be a dialogue that you're meeting with Fishbach and really, and the city of Barnesville, to talk with her about how, if something isn't changed drastically, how that will affect many agencies kind of like yours in regards to the financial stability moving forward. I'm kind of a creature of like to read old minutes, and so I spent some time reading this board's minutes from 2007, 8, 9, in regards to the funding for Barnesville Ambulance and where we thought the priority was and how it would look sustainably moving forward. Back then, there was a smaller amount of funds that were allocated, as you've talked about, and that there was a set amount, and then any additional overage would come from some unanticipated revenue, unanticipated revenues at the end of the year. And that the county board would be the county ask would be viewed as something kind of not a large percentage of what your operating margins were, but kind of that additional maybe piece that would help keep it afloat. And that the priority really was on the city of Barnesville because it was such a heavy, the calls for services were so heavy in the city. And I understand and appreciate that you've asked for the townships have been gracious in that, you've asked from the city. I am gonna say that the ask this year is really hard for me personally, just because we hear so much from Sabin Fire and Rescue and Holly Hurt and Ulen, and I get that they're different components, don't get me wrong, I get. But it's always been easier to justify that it's a small, you know, you're covering a third of the county and there's the levy piece is here, but to almost, or more than double what it is in 1 year is just really gonna be hard. That, you know, that said, I know there's different financial avenues that we can try to find funding for and be part of dialogues, but, I often around this desk look at partnerships, and I think we viewed Barnesville Ambulance as really a partnership over the years. I know that you're a great partner to our sheriff's department in regards to helping meet that need. And I also view working with the city of Barnesville as a partnership. And I know we're part of dispatch partnerships with them and other partnerships with them. And in order for us to meet this ask, we're really going to need them to meet us at the other ask with dispatch too. And it really encompasses what the need of our entire county is. And so we need to have more of a dialogue outside of this room about that partnership in order for me as a commissioner to vote for what this ask for the partnership is. Thank you.
I just, you know, this ask, it's a 114% increase, is what this really is, and it's, that's significant. And when I look at the pie chart and I see that, you know, Barnesville itself remains the same as the previous year. I understand that 2 years prior to that, they took a significant hit, but we also took a 200% increase from, I believe it was 2022 to 2023. You know, at the county level, we went from 10,000 to 30,000. That's, you know, those are big numbers. And, you know, fortunately, you know, Barnesville's doing well. They're growing, and their tax base increases. And, yeah, so we're going to have some strong, and I do want to, like Commissioner Mojo said, part of a lot of the things that we as a board make decisions on are partnerships in a lot of areas. And when, you know, if we can assist in one area, then we're maybe looking for them to assist in another area. And another one that Commissioner Mojo just brought up was dispatch. And you know, there was several years ago now that Barnesville was involved with the equation for helping with dispatch. And now they're coming out and saying that they don't want to be part of that anymore. And, you know, so we have to weigh all of these things as we look financially at a county level and how we're dealing with things. So, but I you know, we'll take your request under submission. Obviously we set our preliminary levy in September, and usually once we get to that level, we certainly can go down, but we can't go up. And so we should have an answer for you on your request by September. Is it the end of September? End of September. So.
And that sounds good. I appreciate you guys listening to me. I know it's a huge ask, and any amount you can do is helpful. That's just my dream number. Don't think that I'm...
Very good.
So can I just ask, what's this dispatch? That you said Barnesville dispatch?
Commissioner Ebinger, you want to?
Yeah, we have, at the discussion, we have a lot of partnerships where we provide funding for various things to the city of Barnesville. One of the things that is expected from our rural cities is that they help in paying for the overall cost and is proportionate to their use for the funding that we need to keep the Red River Regional Dispatch Center going. And there is a discussion right now and feelings from the city of Barnesville that in our partnership, we should be responsible for the entire amount. The levy that the county puts together every year to tax all the citizens of Clay County is not something that we take lightly. And as costs increase on our citizens, we don't want to double tax them by leaving the funding that Barnesville's got on their levy static and allowing and opening up some of the payments, like to the dispatch center, for them to use on other things, and then we have to raise our levy and hence tax all the citizens of Clay County for basic needs like dispatch centers. We're certainly trying to support proportionally your operation, which is critical, and we think it's important to fund it. But we have other things that we need to fund, and if the costs on those increase in Barnesville, or the costs that they expect us to absorb in operations within Barnesville, that money has to come from somewhere. And that impacts on our ability to increase and indeed even maintain some of the funding levels that we currently have. We can't just keep slapping it to the property holders of the entire county to support essential services that we expect some, at a more local level, some assistance in meeting. So that's the issue right now with the dispatch center. We certainly, I think, recognize the need for your ambulance service in the area of the county. It does. And that's reflected in the amount of money we've given in the past. And I hope we can maintain a level of support that's commensurate with the partnership we have with the city of Barnesville. But that's a two-way street. And just to echo what both the chair and Commissioner Mojo said, that's something we have to determine during the budget process.
Yeah, so,
Sorry, this was the first I'm hearing about the dispatch.
yeah, okay.
In my-
And
I hadn't heard about it.
it's probably out of your realm of needing to know, for what you do. And again, we certainly appreciate the service that Barnesville Ambulance provides, and it becomes, it's, and again, Commissioner Abinger just talked about it, Commissioner Mosher just talked about it, and as a county, we try to collaborate as much as we can with our local units of government. And when we do that, we establish criteria on how we might share in funding of many different things. And we base a lot of our decisions on that collaboration on a holistic picture. And when somebody wants to all of a sudden start yanking something out of one portion of that, it kind of changes everything else. And, so I think that's why we need to be very careful when we start having entities want to all of a sudden make changes to percentages going from, say, a 30% share to 0. And then we're left holding that bag, and it's kind of like what the state does to us. Commissioner Kravinoff.
Yeah, thanks for all the comments. The only thing I'd like to add is that I think just to know more what the new legislation is going to do for you, I think that's really important, so we can find out your efficiencies, areas of concern in the future, how that's going to be helping you. I mean, obviously, that was a new chunk of money that was just put out, and it'd be nice to know how that does affect you before, in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
That'd be really helpful in positioning ourselves with you.
Absolutely. And I can send in a letter once I know more about how much we're going to, because I would.
And if you need
For September.
if you need help with something like that, maybe look to that guy there. He might be able to. If he can't help you, he may be able to find somebody that can in terms of the application process.
And Mr. Chair, I did find that they did record that webinar on July 1st, so I did forward that to you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your presentation, and we will be in touch. And there may be additional questions moving forward. So
Absolutely. Reach out anytime. I might be on a call, but I'll get back to you when I can.
very good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have the Soil and Water Conservation District. Good morning, Kevin. You want to share your budget with us?
Why Tony and I are here this morning, so yes, we're pleased to be on your agenda, and thank you for allowing us to be on again. And these things seem like they come around more than once a year, don't they, Mike? Hard to believe
They
that.
go fast.
Anyway, you all know, I think, that we are a very small office. We survive on state grants, self-generated programs like our tree program, our no-till drill program rental that we do to landowners, but also on your allocation, which keeps us afloat. I'm gonna look at the expense side first. Expenses are salaries and benefits for this coming year. We follow the county's cost of living adjustment, and when I supplied this proposal to Steve over there,
Kevin,
Yes.
we do not have the handout you're referring to. If we could get, if we could,
This?
that,
Yeah, you got it.
no, that's for the assessor. That's the assessor.
Well, which handout?
You're referring to something there, right?
I have these, and I had sent it to Steve some time ago, but,
Oh, he,
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Just before you get too deep into it.
Yeah, I
everybody's sitting there
understand.
Looking around, wondering what you're talking about.
Yep, me too sometimes.
Let's stop it now and get it
Sure.
printed out.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
for as much paper as we got today, you're going to probably have to plant some more trees.
Yeah.
Well, that is our business, yeah. We just finished up putting our last, well, we put matting on the trees basically as a weed barrier. We finished up our last job yesterday, so Tony, Alyssa, and Dylan, we've had trouble down in that Comstock area, that heavy rains and that heavy clay soil. It is really is tough stuff. So anyway, good to get that season behind us. I don't know, in all the years I've been here, I don't think we've ever gone into July. So here we are at the middle of July, and so it's time to get done. And when it gets to be 90 degrees outside, you want to be done.
Yeah.
So you were saying while Steve's bringing
Yeah.
it, you were talking about you're basing your salaries off of what the county does?
And that's, our cost of living adjustments, we have followed those, what you folks have done for years, and I
Of
know.
course, we haven't set that yet.
And that's where I was going right away, because I know, we also have our insurance through a different company than what you folks do, and I know that's an issue with all your 9 unions that you're dealing with. I was basically not privy to that you guys are holding off on those at this time for your departments. So ours went in with the 3% cost of living adjustment is what tentatively I was told early on. And then with our health insurance provider, unwilling to give us a dollar amount or a percent increase, they gave me a range to expect, and I just went in the middle of that. I'm at 10% right now is what our proposal is in at. So that, like I say, at this time, and I apologize for not, I guess I didn't know that the county departments were not providing that or including that with their budget proposals at this time. But anyway, ours went in with a 3% cost of living adjustment and a 10% health insurance.
So Kevin, was your range for the insurance rate increase 5 to 15?
5 to 15, I believe.
feel like that-
I went, like I say, at 10.
I feel like that's lower considering where some of those yo-yos have gone.
I've heard some horror stuff with,
Don't get me wrong, 10 is still
yes.
a lot, but
Well, like I say, I just, at my department meetings with your folks, yeah, that range sounds like, I've heard something maybe up to 30%, that doesn't even seem plausible, does it?
hope not.
Yeah, I hope not either,
yeah.
so, yeah. And I don't know where this ends,
I'll tell you what, if it was 30%, we'd be self-insuring.
yeah. So, it's kind of crazy, so, but anyway, I can go on and,
Yeah.
oh, there's Steve.
Okay. Got the heart rate going, Steve. Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, there we go.
Okay. So, yeah, like I say, the salaries and benefits, that's where our request came in as a rule. We typically see very little turnover, but in the last 7 months, we've had a third of our staff has resigned, and I realize it's only 2 people, but for us to fill a hole there is, something that is instrumental. We did hire a new employee in March, but due to seeing the state's financial and deficit projections, our board, being fiscally responsible, are looking at holding off on hiring another employee, just basically until economic conditions hopefully get better. Office expenses, yearly increases that we see with our equipment storage space increase, our audits increase, computer software-related items, server and IT support all seems to increase. Employee training with a new employee, we've been seeing new ones come in the last couple of years, and training is just important to keep up the tabs on things, and new employees definitely need to go through that training, as well as some of us older ones, right, Tony? Yep. And also, last year, we did purchase a new no-till drill. We received a grant from the Department of Agriculture for 50% of it, and the no-till drill that we purchased is $100,000, so we had half of that paid for through a grant, of which the remaining portion that we funded. And then also, the new Paid Leave Act is something that we are, as you guys are well aware, something that we're going to have to hit with this year. Most of our programs continue to stay pretty much the same year after year, but soil health programs are something that are very much in the talk of the federal and state government. And overall, things are just costing more. On the revenue side.
Hey, Kevin, can I ask you, on the
Sure.
on the paid leave, did you incorporate the .44 as
Yes.
your share?
Right, I know .88 was the full rate, and at this time, our Board of Supervisors are gonna do the half, or .44. Yep.
Okay, so that's what's represented here. Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
you're welcome. Last year at this time, we expressed, concerns for the future, and the 2023 legislative session appropriated a number of one-time grant program increases for us, and all indications were that those were going to revert back to what they were previously, and at this stage in the game, I've been unable to get those dollar amounts from our Board of Water and Soil Resources, Board Conservationist, but everything that I've been hearing is that those figures that were increased over the 23 and 24 budget biennium are gonna revert back to what we had seen previously. With those would be the WACA, the Wetland Conservation Act portion, and also local water management dollars. Both are two programs that Tony is pretty instrumental and pretty much the go-to person on those things. We're seeing about $11,000 decrease in those for those two programs. Also, our cost share program for landowners to cover things like tree plantings and those type of things. We're also seeing about a $3,000, from $19,000 to $16,000 reduction. And as far as buffer law, I don't know what's going to happen with that yet. That is something that we have yet to be seeing also. So overall, we're looking at, from our state grants, about a decrease of $13,000. Minnesota Pollution Control, unable to get those figures as well from the feedlot officer's position there. MPCA last year was about a $10,000 base grant, of which we got $4,200 of performance credits. Basically, that's our conservation person, the feedlot person going out doing compliance checks with landowners and complaints that we see in the county. And the county match in that part is roughly about 70%. So, and if you recall back in, I believe it was 2007, the county came to us asking us to take that program over, and it made a $25,000 program out of that. So that one is, we're hoping that you honor that, I guess. The Minnesota DNR, another state agency that we work with, AIS funds, the Aquatic Invasive Species Program that was transferred from the county to us to take over a few years, I believe it was 19. We're not seeing any decreases in that for the coming year, but we're told in 2027 we're going to see half of those funds cut. And our observation well monitoring program that we check for the Department of Natural Resources, those funds, $3,200, are going to remain the same. SWCD aid was one that we were very fortunate in receiving, getting into the line item on the governor's budgets here in 2023, after about 8 years of our MASWCD, our association, going to bat, lobbying for those efforts. We finally got into the budget in 2023 at a $15 million statewide number, of which those dollars were spread throughout the 88 SWCDs in the state. That's going to be knocked down to $12 million. So from what we had hoped to our lobbying efforts this year, we're hoping to get to at least retain back to that $15 million figure. That was unsuccessful. So to us, that means a 20% reduction or $36,000 this year. Our self-generated funds also, we're seeing reduced tree sales and it just seems like with wet years, I think a lot of times people hesitate. And I think with the whole financial world and budgets are tight in the households, even though we have cost share programs available, our tree program seems to be decreasing a little bit, as well as our no-till drill usage. What we're seeing there, we've been in the business with the no-till drill programs to renting those out to landowners. We've been in the business for 30 years, I believe it was 93 when we started, so a little over 30 years. And numerous times, repeat customers, and year after year, those individuals have gone on to purchase their own no-till drills, seeing that it does work in the county. So there's a hit to our program that maybe they aren't rented out anymore. So we're just seeing some of those things. I think just have some effects on are trying to educate landowners to get no-till drill business out in the county, seeing that it does work. Those things have progressed to see landowners actually go and purchase their own equipment. What's our plans for moving forward? Well, I know we're not looking for 114%, which I hope you're okay with that. But we're looking at a overall 2.3% increase over our 2025 budget. And hopefully, like I say before, we've included our 3% cost of living adjustment in there, as well as our health insurance benefit of 10%. So that's all included in our budget request. Like I said, I think our board, being fiscally responsible, really are looking at holding off hiring that 6th employee. As when we were fully staffed, we always found things for them to do. We're seeing the same, hopefully the same customer service that we're providing with 5 of us now. And I guess until we hear something that the general public is not happy with what we're doing, or a few folks here, please let us know. But so far, I think things are going well. So, any questions?
One of the questions that I like to ask is, and we're always kind of after the fact here because we set a budget, and so the most accurate information we have on a previous year would be the year ending 2024, right?
Right.
And how did your budget to actual turn out for year ending 2024?
I have some of those figures in here. I guess, we went backwards as far as our audit was concerned. We did go backwards last year. I don't remember what the number was.
When you say you went backwards, you had expenditures over revenues?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And, that's something that is always a concern. And we have, the ability to take on grants as they come in. We have a number of programs that we work with the watershed districts that we have monies going in and out. Typically, we're seeing a increase in activity in those. We see a lot of stream bank erosion projects. We see washouts in fields, those type of things. But like I say, based off our audit from last year, we did go backwards. We had.
And so when you do that, Kevin,
Yep.
So you must have some reserves.
Right, we do. Yes,
Okay.
we do. Yeah.
And at what point, we like to maintain a certain level of reserves, and once we're there, I mean, there's no reason to increase the reserves. Well, obviously, if you went negative, you didn't increase your reserves, but are you still in a stable position with your?
We try to keep, we'd like to maintain about a 6-month in reserve. We're probably at that 3 to 4 month range right now. So, and like I say, with having one less employee, definitely there's some savings going to be had there with not having those, benefits and salaries to go out. But like I say, working in the previous few years of having 6 employees, it really works well. And we're constantly trying to keep our prices down, our tree program, our no-till drills, all that, our services to offer without having, being in excess. And we try to coordinate with surrounding counties, so we're somewhat in line with them, so.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Moschel.
Thank you. Going back to your previous comments, I think one of the biggest pieces, if I look at your actual and proposed in '24, was that you took on $157,000 worth of state cost share projects when $20,000 was budgeted. And so sometimes in your world and with the watershed world too, those state funding grants, if you have the ability to knock off some of these projects with these grants, that's maybe why you supersede what was probably budgeted.
And like I say, those one watershed, one plan funds basically are a 2 or 3 year cycle. So some of those funds get spent in 1 year and then get carried over till, so all that isn't coming in 1 year, but they're not all going out the same year. Yeah, it's, I think that whole budgeting thing is kind of difficult. With our entity, it seems like there's a lot of, funds that are out there, and based on projects, there are a portion of those dollars that can be retained by us for some of our technical and engineering assistance. But a lot of it goes, we're paying 90% of the cost of these projects to landowners, which is a pretty good deal in what I've seen in my life.
If I might really quickly then, I know you mentioned a little bit, you access several different pools of money, both federally and state, not only with the county, but, there is a lot of uncertainty there, and there was a lot of dialogue about SWCD districts and what that aid looked like this legislative session for Minnesota. I know at one point there was an increase, and obviously there were decreases in other areas. I appreciate that you're aware that there might be some substantial cost shifts, not shifts, but reductions, particularly in the AIS and what that capacity line item looks like. I'll just say, I think that your office just provides such a huge service to Clay County. You're always on the front end in regards to dialogues with landowners, but also I know you're really active with county staff and management in regards to that piece. You're always the constant for landowners when they have questions or concerns on things. I'm always shooting them to your office. I know my dad frequents your office, whether that's a good or a bad thing in regards to conservation efforts. But truly, I know we can joke about this, but thank you, Kevin and Tony and the others at the office. You do such a great job for meeting the need. I appreciate it.
I'm just going to comment too that, you've been doing this a lot of years, Kevin, right?
When it gets to be in September, I'll be here. I'll be going on my 48th year. Good God.
48 more to go, or?
I hope not. But anyway, yeah, I look at it too, and I think that can't possibly be. But yeah, it is.
Well, just to kind of echo Commissioner Mojo, the services that you provide are important to, especially in the ag community. That's really a significant amount of it. But your budgets, when you bring them in, they're always, to start with, they're very reasonable and they're well thought out. And not to say that, I'd like to be able to say that about everybody's, but it isn't necessarily the case, but.
Just look out for my own.
But anyway, I just appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll make a quick comment.
Yes.
I don't want to say much more to, I'll make you blush in the fact if you get more compliments. But being around you for so many years and also watching you from month to month this year, anticipating, and I think it was long before our letter went out to you, you were talking about that last position and how to make that adjustment. And your new hire, Dylan, is phenomenal. And so I do think you have a way of making adjustments. And when your hires seem to be well-qualified people to help you do that. And I speak to that, Tony, when you came into it, Dylan, and you've had some real winners, Gabe, who left last year, but I think you filled those shoes completely. As I watch your work, I think you're my own opinion, you'll do just fine without that extra employee for a while. But that depends a lot on the state too, right? And demands. But I do think the One Watershed, One Plan has really shifted a lot of your work also, which ends up being greater needs in the water quality area, you know, so shifts down the road too, right? But anyway, thank you for everything, and it's always a pleasure being with you.
All right, well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you for your presentation, and you kind of know what we talked about in terms of when decisions are made, and
Yep.
you've been through that rodeo before.
And I want to thanks even and the department heads again too, it's for including me in their meetings. Like I said, always fun, and you have a good group working for the county, so like I said, I'm glad to be part of it, even though that we're not true, fully county employees. I appreciate being included in your meetings, so thank you.
All right, very good, thank you.
Keep up the good work, guys.
I know our board is really anxious to take a break, but we're going to just get this assessor's. She's been patiently waiting here, so I don't think this one will take us very long.
She thought she was gonna get in early, too.
Good morning. Oh,
I did prepare a summary. Do you have?
we do, yes.
Okay. And when I gave you my March update, I went into detail about our licensing requirements and our continuing ed. So basically, that's the majority of our budget expenditures, as well as sending out notice evaluation statements and just the software that we need to do our job. So the revenue line, that fee billing to the townships and the cities for our work, that was set by the commissioners in 2018. So next year, I will be coming before you to look at any changes or increase to that going forward. It's just been increasing on the improved parcels by 25 cents a parcel. As far as our staffing, no additional positions being requested. It's just the steps or COLA or insurance changes. And then majority of it is, like I said, is our licensing and continuing education and sending out the notice evaluation statements. There is a $4,000 increase to the other professional services. That is, our contract was ending for our CAMA software. And on April 1st, you approved locking in another 5 years so that we could lock that rate and not have annual increases to that. That does get reimbursed through the compliance fund at the recorder's office. And there is a shift between accounts. The printing and publishing is reduced by $5,000. Lori, the auditor, has felt to shift that instead, $3,000 to office supplies and $2,000 to professional services. In my pre-budget meeting with Steve and Darren and Lori, I did present forward, we're part of a MCCC TaxLink user group. It is a shared software of all the counties to share data and information on tax court cases, and I am choosing to end that participation. That would save $3,700 a year, and instead we can use a free version, as well as I just have developed relationships with a lot of Hennepin County and other counties that have a large load of tax court. So, but then to increase my budget, I am requesting to do an insert into our notice evaluation and tax statements that to inform people about the change to the how we're going to value the ag land to the CPI rating. So just looking at our expenses, taking the CAMA increase out of there, I'm actually reducing our expenses by $400. One unknown expense is we do have 5 tax court petitions pending. They were filed on the 24 assessment. 2 of those are vacant for sale buildings. One is a Walmart. Of the Walmart, there's 9 outer state filings and over 20 in the Twin Cities. So it's ongoing with them. I don't, at this time, have any known expenses that we will have outside of our general staffing and work that we do. I don't, we'll get past the August 1st deadline and know more for you. And I can come back at another time to give you more information as we proceed with these tax court petitions.
All right. Any questions?
One question.
Yeah.
For me being new with a tax court petition, is that normal? Having, okay.
We do not win the prize in our region for the most. Douglas County has 6. So we have
I'll take that as a win.
some years we have none, and like last year, and then right now we have 5, but
And it's not unlikely that we get the big box, ones
Yeah.
that are always trying to contest.
yeah. One is Slumberland in Dilworth, Walmart, Rasmussen College, and then the Wells Fargo Bank, and then that 2810 is the former Golden Living Center nursing home that is closed.
The only thing that I questioned on here is, you're showing a negative in health insurance.
I do.
Yes.
Yes.
I just took that forward from what was provided.
In your previous year, you had a budget line item of 83,412, and this year it's 78,081. And you can,
We'll have to check
Mr.
that
Yeah,
with
Mr.
Lori.
Chair, it may depend on the employees that you have, whether they take family or single.
Oh, that may have changed.
so there could be changes based on the previous year and what's forecast. Okay. All right, well, very good. Any other questions? Yes.
Just one, with the way we're on ag land, with the new system coming in play, do you think there's going to be, to help you, any type of education that you'll need to give landowners out there with the change? Or do you think it's pretty well understood?
There may be a need for some. I do know, like FSA is already using the same ratings. So
Yeah.
I think, most farmers are informed on it, but that's part of the reason that we want to do this insert in with the tax statement, and that gives
Okay.
them a year's advance.
Okay, and then they'd be able to come in, I
Yeah,
guess, at that
and come
point.
in
But
and talk.
yeah,
And I have been asked, well, like I could also speak in more depth at like the annual township meetings or.
yeah, I wonder if we shouldn't. You know better than I how that's going to shape, or affect certain areas. But I think some people are going to be pretty happy, and others are going to be maybe a little startled, perhaps.
Yeah.
But I believe in the new system. I think it's by far a lot more equitable, so.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Thank you, Joe. We will take a 5-minute break. All right, we are back in session here. Next item that we have is a budget presentation from our facilities department. And good morning, Joe.
Yes, good morning. I will take you through my budget here. I don't plan on going line by line, but I'll hit the highlights and increases, and feel free to ask me any questions you see here. So when you look at my budget, I see I look at it as a 2-part budget. The first one is the courthouse budget, and that covers all the buildings and grounds and maintenance and operations of the courthouse, the LEC, the jail, the DMV, the storage building, government center, and then we've added a detox expense in there, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. And then the second part is the Family Service Center Enterprise Fund, and that covers the operations and management of the building and mailroom, central services, building manager, and grounds and maintenance. So those are the two parts of my budget that I have here. So looking at the courthouse buildings and grounds, as far as the revenue, I'm showing 64,405. It looks like I have a 49% decrease, but in reality, that's we'd used prior the year before, we'd used that line item for when public health had given us some had reimbursed us for some costs out at the detox facility, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But typically, that line is it's for the rent of the courthouse and so that 64,000 is coming from the DOC contract that we just got into with them. Normally, we would get roughly about 48,000 out of there, and by having the new area that we're remodeling, it's up to 64,405. So moving forward, that's all you're gonna see as far as revenue for the courthouse on that end. And then you'll see that we did add a revenue line for the 01-111-430, that's a revenue line for detox. So what happens, the detox is the enterprise fund, and you'll see their expenses down at the bottom here. And so it's at the end of the year, I bill Kathy McKay's budget, and she has this accounted for in her current budget today. So just as explain that. As far as salaries, you're gonna see the salaries are actually up and down. You're gonna see a pretty good decrease in the courthouse, but we've tried this in the last couple of years to track the employees per building, and I think Lori and I have come up with a system I think is gonna work this year as far as how we charge each building. Our goal is to try to figure out who's working where and how much is it gonna cost, and I think this year, next year, we'll have a better look at it, but you're gonna see a 43% decrease in that line, but just know that as you work your way down each building, you'll see there's an increase in there. So it's within the same budget. I don't have any unexpected overtime or anything like that. So you'll see a shift there. So as far as the only item or the line in this category here is professional services. I'm gonna asking to up that for the courthouse. It's kind of an aging building. You could see it's been a trend of it's costing more money nowadays for contractors. And then we're gonna increase the lawn by a little bit. I've teamed up with Matt Jacobson to help him kind of take care of a couple vacant lots around the county too, so we've just increased that just a little bit. And then the other thing to note, the jail and the LEC are kind of the more important ones. We're in year 7 now, I believe, of that. Our 5-year warranty on all the equipments and everything is up now. Usually when you hit that 7 to 8 years is when you start seeing some equipment go. They're both 24-hour facilities. So I am asking to increase the building repair and professional service and equipment repair there to get them more in line with what I think it costs nowadays. So that's probably the one, I guess, significant increase to the budget there. And then, of course, if you look down the detox, I have that category in there, and that's basically covering everything that has to do with facilities there. And like I say, I do bill that back to Kathy because it is an enterprise fund. So expense there, but you'll see the revenue for detox come in there. So as far as courthouse, that's what I have. Any questions you see on those lines? Okay, we'll just move into Family Service Center. So the revenue portion is going to be staying the same this year as far as the number. We have a S for rent. We have $1,249,507. Just to note though, it's with public health taking, the second floor, they're taking the new area, and Quinn's 4th floor, social services, they're taking theirs in. Quinn's is $41,000 and public health is $19,000. So the shift there is, the tenants that did leave were non-county dollars. And so these are still part of the enterprise fund, so it's not going up or down, but from a county expense, it's added into their budgets. And we knew this as a space needs or whatever, so that's showing that, but the revenue stays the same there. I think I'm gonna be working with the building committee on that. I think we are looking at comparing what we charge for rent over there. I think in the past, we've tried to not compete with the public, and that's gonna still be our goal. But I think there's a little bit of a gap there so I'm hoping to bring some numbers there. We wouldn't, with that adjustment, it wouldn't be, 2026 budget for sure, because there's contracts all over the place. So the goal is to get a solid number that we think that we should be charging and do that through our contracts expiration date. So that's that. As far as everything else there, I guess in the Family Service Center, we don't really have any new changes there. You'll see the salaries have decreased, but that they've increased other places too between the two buildings, so that should be good. Yeah, other than that, it's, questions for me on the Family Service Center? And just to note too, it's not in here, you guys, you can't see it, but Fund 19, we do put 150,000 every year on that. It's something I just want to bring up because it's not shown in here, but
How
it's.
come we don't see it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure where Lori tracks that in her budget, so.
Just 150,000.
Yeah, that's why I thought I would, it's definitely somewhere she has accounted for.
19, it's.
Yep, yeah, Fund 19. So I don't know where that is. I can follow up though and see where that is for you, and then Fund 13 is another one. I'm not sure where that's tracked. That's the one that comes in through, we get 50,000 a year that comes in through tax allocation there, so just wanted to note that, and anything you see you have questions on here.
Well, I always have questions when I see the word depreciation in a.
Right. Like you say, with that Family Service Center, right, what are we showing? We're showing a loss. Let's see here. Showing a loss of $422,466, and then, as you could see, the $365,000 is depreciation. I did talk to Lori. Actual cash, 1.4 million. So it shows that we have a loss here, but we're sitting pretty good there, and I guess that's about.
I don't
Yeah.
recall us ever writing out a check to depreciation.
Right, yeah. But I can certainly look more
But
into
yet
that too.
you know, if it's in here, it's like it's part of our, it establishes part of our levy.
Right, yeah. No, I can, that's certainly something worth looking at.
And I know sometimes Lori might, you know, based on Gadsby rules or whatever,
Yeah.
it's there for that purpose, or it could be something to do with a principal and interest payment.
Yeah.
And it's, in there, it's described as depreciation, but we should get an answer on that.
Yep, I can do that for you.
And then and Joe, you've kind of redone your budget over the last few years because we've added some
Yeah.
different facilities, and you've made some shifts from maybe expenses from one to another or something, and.
Yep.
And I appreciate when you do that, but I think it would be good for us to have an overall consolidated. So that a report, so that we can see how everything pulled together is, because your salaries change from one to another.
Yep.
But then again, on a consolidated one, it gives us a better indication of
Yeah.
the totals this year to last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Breakdowns are great, but I like to see the consolidated
Yep.
for comparative purposes, so.
And one big number to compare from one to the other.
Yeah.
Yep,
And if you could provide that to us just before we have to do the preliminary
Yep.
levy, that would be helpful.
yep, I can do that, yep.
Mr. Chair, I was gonna ask for the same thing.
Yeah.
That shows it all.
Yep, everything's kind of broken down to the building, and it's tough to track when you're looking at it, especially the first time you see it, so. Yep, I'll put something together.
All right, anything else for Joe? All right. Yes, yes.
This isn't budget related, but can you just please relay to your staff, the grounds look phenomenal.
Yeah. Yep.
The flower baskets, I know you purchased from a Clay County business.
Yep.
Everything looks phenomenal. So
Yep.
thank you so much.
Yes, appreciate that. I will relay that to them, so, thank you. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, next we have a presentation of local impacts on federal reforms to SNAP and medical assistance, MA. Quinn, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Get this fired up here. All right. Yes, I'm here today to make you and the community aware of kind of what the local impacts will be in regards to the new reforms for SNAP and medical assistance. To provide some context and background, HR 1, otherwise known as the Big Beautiful Bill, was a reconciliation package that was passed in early July, signed by President Trump, that makes sweeping changes to our tax policy, safety net programs, border enforcement, student loans, and energy policy. Specifically, what we'll be talking about today are programs affected at social services, which is our Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and medical assistance, or Medicaid. I'll reference that as SNAP and MA. Just an overview of what we'll be talking about today. What these federal reforms will look like is there will really be massive cost shifts from the federal to state government, and what I'm concerned about is ultimately down to county governments. The expected impacts, I believe, will be reduced services, a higher local administrative cost, an increase in denied services, and a result of increased workload for our county staff. I do include implementation dates when we get into program-specific areas, but these implementation dates range from federal fiscal year 26 to federal fiscal year 2029. I do also want to note that both SNAP and MA are federal programs administered at the state level, but specifically in Minnesota, counties are required to operate them under the direction of DHS. Counties cannot opt out of administering MA or SNAP. We function as an administrative arm of the state, not as an independent provider. I kind of want to briefly show who does Medicaid serve. If you look at the chart on your left, you can see that the northwest region of the state has about 28.1% of their population as enrolled members of Medicaid. But if you look on the right there, Clay County specifically, as of 2024, 24.4% of Clay County residents were enrolled in Medicaid, which equates to 16,357 individuals. I do think it's important to note as well, parents, children, and pregnant women account for 22% of Medicaid spending, while adults 65 and over and people with disabilities account for 15% of Medicaid enrollees and account for 60% of spending. Just kind of makes sense when you think about the costs of nursing home care and costs related to people with disabilities being more expensive. Again, as a reference point, the 16,357 individuals that are covered by Medicaid in Clay County represent about 9,000 cases and an additional 1,000 what we call long-term care cases, so folks in nursing homes. Important facts about Medicaid: it's the single largest source of health insurance in Minnesota, and it serves as the foundation of our state's healthcare infrastructure. It pays for more mental health services for Minnesotans than any other insurance provider in the state, and covers half all substance use disorder treatment costs in the state as well. Medicaid also covers 50% of all long-term care costs for Minnesotans, especially as you can see here in greater Minnesota. Kind of broken this presentation down into what I'll call the proposed service changes and then the fiscal impacts that go along with that for both MA and for SNAP. So regarding the service changes to medical assistance, there's really two big ones. Right now, medical assistance does not have a work requirement in the state of Minnesota, but there will be a new one that comes into effect. What it will look like is anyone ages 19 to 64 with exemptions for pregnant women, parents of children under 13, the medically frail, American Indians, foster youth, and medically exempt veterans will have this work requirement. They will have to complete 80 hours per month of work, volunteer, education, training, or community involvement. These citizens must prove 1 month of compliance to these requirements at the initial application and every 6 months afterwards. We don't know exactly what this looks like yet, but in the bill there's legislation and language that says states are encouraged to use paperwork-free verification via administrative records when possible. I'm hoping that that means that some of the SNAP and cash assistance programs where we do have work requirements, that we can cross-reference those systems, but right now those systems don't exist for Medicaid. What I'm a little worried about when it comes to how that's worded is that it does seem that that is pushing the burden of that administration onto the administrators of the program versus having enrollees provide that documentation. Basically saying, hey, you go find it before you ask enrollees to provide it for you. Again, just increasing the administrative anticipated workload. Kind of what the timeline looks like for these work requirements is detailed guidance must be given to the states by June 1st of 2026, with these systems in place to support the requirements by the end of the year 26. However, the work requirement itself doesn't go into effect until January 1, 2029. And as I noted, right now, medical assistance has no work requirement at all. Our computer system called METS doesn't even have a place to document this information. So the state's going to have to come up with a completely new software or addition to the software in order to be able to document those things. We really don't know what that looks like yet. It's going to be a completely new data point for our healthcare team to administer. Along with that, we are looking at additional eligibility renewals. Previously, how it works right now is there's one eligibility renewal every year. So the 9,000 cases and the additional 1,000 long-term care cases, our healthcare team processes one renewal form per year. That's going to 2. We have to do these renewals every 6 months. So
Is that renewal, Quinn, is that renewal less time sensitive than the actual first application?
We don't know yet, but if it's just the exact same renewal as it exists now, it would effectively be a doubling of the workload. We don't know the specifics of if that 6-month renewal will be, I'm going to say, less than the existing renewal.
But in the past, we did an annual renewal, right?
Correct, yep.
But the annual renewal isn't as time sensitive as the first application, is it? Or is it the same amount of work?
That'd have to probably yield to Michaela, yeah. In terms of the specifics of the difference, I don't want to tell you the wrong time frame.
Good morning. So in regards to renewals versus applications, applications have a longer timeline that we can process them, 60 days, whereas renewals have to be done by the end of the month or the case will close. So I would say renewals are more time sensitive because then you have enrollees losing coverage, especially because they may not turn it in a timely way.
Maybe time sensitive isn't what I wanted. Sure. I'm looking at the amount of work involved.
Oh, sure, sorry. Similar. It's very similar, yes. Depends, which is a gray answer, but if things have changed, there's a lot more work that's going to go into that versus if someone reports, nope, no changes, it will go a little quicker. So in some of our cases, we still have to verify assets or income no matter what. And again, we don't know exactly what that looks like, but there's potential for similar workload to the application.
Thank you.
Along with the addition of the eligibility renewal every 6 months versus every year, there will be quarterly residency verifications that go into effect January 1 of 2027. Again, we don't know exactly what that'll look like because it'll be a new system, but I am hoping that this cross-referencing to existing residency checks and the systems that we're able to operate will help with that. At least I'm crossing my fingers that that's going to be the case. An important thing to note as well, right now, when someone goes on medical assistance, they'll provide retroactive coverage up to 3 months in the past. That's not just for medical procedures, but that's also for things like Title IV billing when it comes to children that are out of home placement. The changes to medical assistance are going to cut that retroactive coverage from 3 months down to 1 month, effective October of 2026. Just makes the importance of getting all the kiddos that we have in foster care enrolled into Medicaid timely. So when it talks about how quick of a process, we want it to be as quick as possible so we don't lose out on that revenue because of a timing issue. When it comes to the proposed fiscal impact, the reconciliation bill reduces federal MA support by $880 billion over the next 10 years. I have seen the number range when it comes to what Minnesota is projected to lose. I believe that the range is really dependent upon what the state of Minnesota chooses to do to the program itself. If it's going to keep all of the eligibility requirements or if it will change. But I've seen a number anywhere between $330 million to 1.2 to 1.4 billion. Annually lost in federal Medicaid funding. I just want to be super transparent here about Clay County's impact and how I came up with these numbers. I used 2 different forms of calculation, if you will. Currently, our healthcare team has 13 staff on it. If you look at an average cost per salary, or with salary and benefits, it's $73,063 for one staff. If you look at the fact that a 6-month our every 6-month eligibility renewals with similar impacts, and these quarterly address verifications equating to about a doubling of the work. Just say we would need double the staff. That equates to about $950,000 of additional administrative burden. I also have numbers that say the state of Minnesota is projected to lose $160 million in this administrative funding from MA. We hold 0.78% of Minnesota's total MA caseload, so just using that ratio on the 160 million equates to $1.24 million of an additional administrative burden there. Again, we do our best to do the work timely. Our caseloads are on the higher end as it is right now, and our staff do a wonderful job at maintaining compliance, which I'll speak to in a little bit. Really, the key driver of these anticipated cost increase are this new 6-month eligibility redetermination, the work verification requirements, and the quarterly address checks. It's going to dramatically increase the workload for our staff.
Those are federal regulations, right?
Correct. That's federal funding that come in due to the federal regulations. And again, some states administer this program themselves, but Minnesota has the counties administer them. Important things to note about Medicaid just in general. It really contributes significantly to the state and community healthcare sector. It really provides funding for public health infrastructure, hospitals, mental health centers, home care, community clinics, nursing homes, our medical providers. And Medicaid, not Medicare, is the primary source of coverage for long-term care services, such as nursing home costs. It really is the doorway for a lot of the clients that we serve to access vital services like assessments, waivered programs, like our elderly and disability waivers, our home and community-based services, our long-term care facilities, our targeted case management, our substance use care coordination, among many other services. These funds just aren't payments, they're lifelines for our counties, mental health centers, home care agencies, nursing homes, etc. Cuts to this funding could force closures of these businesses, jeopardizing access to care for thousands of our vulnerable citizens and impacting hundreds of jobs in the healthcare sector, potentially threatening the infrastructure of our local economy. Before I move on to SNAP, does anyone have any questions specific to the MA changes?
Questions?
I have one
Okay.
question with MA. I have one question for MA. Can you put people like that on a waiting list to get through, for you to work them through, or is it very timely and has to be?
It's my understanding we'd be out of compliance if we didn't follow the timeline requirements. I mean, you could, but I would not recommend it. I would worry we'd face legal repercussions as a result of that.
Right.
And potential funding impacts as well.
That was my only question.
Thank you. When it comes to SNAP, our food, thank you, Michaela. Comes to our.
Hey, Quinn, can I just one question in regards to Medicaid services and long-term care? You know, there's a lot of people who probably do have the ability to pay. You know, obviously, these are for. I guess what I'm getting at is there are some people who end up on Medicaid, and they might have considerable assets, and if they're accepting the Medicaid, at some point in time, those assets are recoverable through the state. And so my question is for those people, are they aware when they're enrolling in Medicaid what the potential liability is to them?
Like to go back and capture assets of the people, yeah. Do you want to maybe speak to this specifically?
Yeah, I'd love to share about this. So when people apply for long-term care services, we actually look back. There's a look-back period, 3 to 5 years of going through their bank statements, seeing where has every dollar been spent. I mean, it's fine-tooth comb that our long-term care staff go through their bank statements, their assets. In regards to other assets, not necessarily liquid cash, We look at all of the assets that they have. Some can be excluded, like, for example, if their spouse is living in the home still, you know,
And they
that's.
can stay there until they decide they're going to leave that residence. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so we will require people to spend down their assets to meet the threshold before we approve any eligibility. So it's a really thorough review. And then in addition, we use digital interfaces, I would say, to verify with their social. So if they don't report, you know, a bank account, but their social security number, their name is listed on a bank account, we're gonna find out about that before we even deem them eligible. So it's checks and balances also, not just basically attestation. And that review is also done at the review time as well, so.
Part of why I bring that up is there, you know, the people who today might be in the workforce, you know, if they have the ability to consider long-term care insurance, it's a good way for them to protect their assets as well. Because if you don't choose that avenue and your avenue becomes Medicaid or MA, then your assets become at risk. Right? And there's a big difference there than if you have the long-term care where you have an insurance policy where it's not coming out of your.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming from the state.
And our staff, they do what we refer to as a screening when an individual or their representative, their family contacts us saying, oh, we're getting to that time where we want to look into these services. They'll advise them how to protect
Good.
Those assets. So could be a burial account, could be, you know, anything that is technically by policy excluded, assets that are still, you know, legal and within policy.
That's probably the one area that I, as a commissioner, have been called upon that folks didn't realize was that, you know, their family member or something got on MA, and obviously then all those medical bills that are paid over time, and then when they went to sell their parents' home or something, you know, those assets went to the state.
Yeah, I wish that there was more education at the front end of things, you know, earlier before they get to that.
That's exactly why I'm
point.
bringing this up today, that
Yeah.
hopefully it can be a public service announcement to
Yes.
the public that they should be aware of the, I mean, Medicaid is a good thing for those who need to have it. But at the same point in time, if they're not looking at a complete financial picture, somebody can qualify for MA and have significant assets other than cash.
Wonderful public service announcement. I didn't know that before I started working at social services. believe it or not. Yes, a healthy amount of estate planning and future planning is very important, because there are horror stories of people that have had to do that and then lost the home farm or lost the lake cabin as a result when they need to sell.
And like for all of our employees, they have the ability to purchase long-term care insurance, don't they?
Correct.
Good. All right, thank you.
Okay, moving on to our food assistance and SNAP program here. Right now, SNAP does have a work requirement. Right now, it's all individuals age 18 to 49. That timeframe is moving to individuals age 18 to 64. Parents with any minor children right now are exempt from the work requirements. That is changing to parents with children under the age of 14 in the new legislation. Effective October 1st, 2030, veterans, homeless individuals, and former foster youth will lose existing work exemptions that they previously held under policy now. I am anticipating reduced waiver flexibility, stricter compliance enforcement, and as a result, that is likely to result in increased denials, sanctions, and a higher administrative workload for our staff. Obviously, I'm concerned with the denials and sanctions that are anticipated to occur, that there's going to be service loss. Benefits are going to be decreased to our citizens, and as a result, I'm concerned as to what the strain on our community food pantries may look like when they're already feeling kind of the strain and the burden right now. Without getting too into the weeds regarding the compliance enforcement, how the benefits are calculated will be changed as well. There are going to be limits to the utility allowance. There's going to be exclusions to internet costs. And under this legislation, it will limit the SNAP program to U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents. Just a snapshot in time, we have about 3,400 SNAP cases per year, representing about 7,704 Clay County citizens. When it comes to the fiscal impact, again, the federal reconciliation bill reduces SNAP support by $186 billion over the next 10 years. The biggest component there's two big components fiscally. The federal reimbursement for SNAP admin costs is reducing from how it exists right now at 50% down to 25%, and this will occur October 1st, 2025. The remaining 75% of these administrative costs are going to be borne by states or us as counties. In fiscal year 2024, Minnesota received approximately $78.5 million in federal administrative reimbursement, of which 79% of that was directed to the counties. We won't know exactly what this cost shift will look like, how much of that 75% counties will bear until the state and/or DHS distributes this new fiscal responsibility. With any sort of shift,
Do we know, Quinn, what proportion of the administrative costs are to the overall SNAP program, and which would include the benefit payments?
It'd be broken down into the benefit payments themselves and the administrative costs for supporting the implementation of the program. This reduction from 50 to 25% is only in the administrative costs. Does that answer? I don't think.
But on here, you're saying there's $186 billion over 10 years that's reduces the federal SNAP support. Those are actual support payments that go to people.
It's my understanding that the $186 billion is a reduction in all, whether it's the benefit reduction and the administrative.
So it includes
Yes.
includes both, okay.
Yes, that's my understanding. With this loss of administrative reimbursement, obviously, and these new work requirements, I am anticipating increased local costs to help our eligibility workers manage these expanded work requirements. We may need to look at additional staffing to keep up with these new verifications and renewal demands. Without it, we would risk delays and backlogs of our SNAP case processing or dramatically increase error rates. And the reason error rates are important is what I'm going to speak to next. The other big fiscal impact is a new penalty-based cost-sharing program that's going to be applied based on payment error rates for SNAP, which measures the accuracy of the benefits issued. So things like overpayments or underpayments that go out or that don't go out. As you can see here, the federal government will reduce its share of administrative costs for states with high payment error rates. The breakdown of where your state falls and the percentage, whether it's a 5%, 10%, or 15% shift to the state, is listed right there for your review. So it's really going to be Minnesota's statewide error rate that drives how much counties are impacted. To give you a snapshot in time, in 2024, Minnesota's error rate was 8.98%. Unfortunately, as of July 2nd, they are sitting at exactly 10%, which would kick them into the 15% admin share.
Jenny has a question.
Oh, Jenny.
Hi. I'm just going to make a comment based on that one. What's really tricky for me on that is that it's governed by what the error of the state is. Now, if you break that down a little bit and look more regionally statewide, that's the part where really is concerning for me. If the state will shift then to the counties, that dialogue we've talked about for months, if we're governed by the error rate statewide, and then that will filter down to us, that's not really an equitable way for that to work out, particularly if locally we see low error rates, which I anticipate because our staff is amazing. We'll just really need to keep a close beat on that.
Mike, what is Clay County's error rate?
You both had wonderful questions at the perfect time. My next sentence
Always.
is Clay County's error rate is 3%.
Right.
So yes, I do need to give a quick shout out to our staff, to their testament. It's really a testament to our staff's accuracy and dedication.
I didn't have access to that error rate when I said they're amazing. They just are. So.
I maybe buried the lead in the notes.
Yep, that's good.
That you don't.
So with that being said, if the state's 10 and we're 3, we could get a little worse if you want.
No, we don't. We want to have the lowest error rate possible. But yes, again, without bearing the lead too much, that is kind of an advocacy side of this from my perspective. I fundamentally believe that if the state wants to just equally divvy out what that state share is without looking at individual county error rates, it'd be a disservice. We'd be kind of subsidizing some of the counties with higher error rates. It would be my position from an advocacy standpoint to say that if an individual county falls below any sort of admin cost threshold by the federal government, that there shouldn't be any cost share. I speak to that kind of at the end of the presentation. But yes, Clay County is sitting at 3% as of right now. Wonderful job. Take care now.
And when is the, what's the timeline for these changes?
2028 is when the up to 15% state cost share for SNAP benefits.
I think some of these things, Quinn, we're glad that you're providing some of these things for us now, I think there can be such a financial impact to Clay County on some of these things from what I'm seeing between now and 2029, that this should warrant its own meeting to discuss these issues. And so that we can be better informed as to how to speak to those in St. Paul.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I think this might be something, Steve, that down the road we might want to just have a separate meeting, work group meeting with this in mind, and potentially even invite if we could do that work group at a time when they're not in session, even to have our legislatures come and listen in on some of these things where our concerns are.
I might also request that we have copies of this for the Thursday meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my hopes with this presentation today was to raise that awareness and get it on everybody.
Yeah, and we're grateful that you did that and that you're doing that, but some of these things, I don't know that we're ready to push the panic button yet, because some of these things, there is time for us to review the consequences of the new bill, whatever they call that thing that they did in July. Anyway, yeah, big, beautiful bill. That's what I was saying.
So again, you all kind of hit the nail on the head, where even if Clay County performs well, the state level performance may still result in the shift. Again, I think there's some advocacy that can happen as to how that might impact Clay County specifically. I also do want to note, there was a lot of, say, talk or kind of feedback around what these payment error rates are as being fraud. This would be like a cutting down on fraud, but not all payment error rates are fraud. It's very, very simple. They could be very, very tiny things. Examples of error rates could be a pay stub that was coded wrong in the system. It could be a typo. Could be a client reported an address that wasn't updated in a timely manner. Could be a lease is updated and the worker typed in 250 instead of 225. Or the client has a vehicle and the DMV knows about it. We don't have access to the DMV's registration system and we don't know about it. So that's an asset that they had that would have impacted their benefits, but we can't see that. All of those things are examples of what makes up the payment error rates. It's not all just fraud.
On the one page of your handout here where it talks about the federal reductions, and it says the reconciliation bill reduces federal SNAP support by $186 billion over 10 years. Maybe just some clarification on there. Is that actual reduction in today's dollars, or is it just a reduction in what their anticipated growth of the fund would be over 10 years?
I'd have to follow up on that. I don't know the detail if that's with inflation calculated.
Because I mean, those can be significant differences. I mean, they're both probably not good for SNAP, but
to know. Yep. I don't know, but
one scenario is much worse than the other.
I can find out and follow up.
Okay.
Again, without, I mean, you can see that it's kind of up in the air as to how the federal shift will look in terms of Minnesota, and then even within Minnesota, how it would be distributed to counties. I mean, I guess if you went kind of just the straight, they're gonna say, we have a 10% share, here's 10% of what you gave in terms of benefits. That's where I came up with these numbers. So in 2024, Clay County administered $15,328,000 worth of SNAP benefits, without knowing exactly what that'll look like. If they just went with the 5%, 10%, or 15% based on our state error rates, that's where these numbers come from. So even a 5% admin share would equate to $766,000 based on the amount of SNAP benefit that we administer in a year, with the worst case scenario of the 15% equating to about $2.3 million of administrative costs.
And right now, Quinn, you mentioned that in some of those instances, that workload, there isn't even software right now that.
That's just for MA.
Oh, that's MA. Okay,
In the
this is
SNAP programs,
SNAP.
we do
Okay,
have,
okay.
yep, we do have the work requirement systems built into the SNAP
Okay,
data or system, if you
that's already there. Okay, thank you.
I do, again, want to highlight that counties are not in control of the state's payment error rate calculations. It's just our individual performances that make a difference. But obviously, with that being the case, there's going to be an increased pressure on our eligibility workers to continue having accurate documentation and timely responses and keep crushing it the way that they are.
Is it considered in the error rate if an applicant provides incorrect information? Is that still considered part of the error rate?
It could be. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of those logistical barriers that we face of folks that don't have contact information and we need to follow up. It's not looked at as the applicant didn't provide it, it's looked as we didn't meet the timeline.
So you can't get a hold of them and then it's.
Our fault, if you want to look at it that way. Yep. To summarize what the Big Beautiful Bill means for Clay County, we're looking at a significant loss in federal funding. We're not seeing state unfunded mandates, we're seeing federal unfunded mandates this time. There is a risk with the MA loss to our local health infrastructure, and this is not something that counties can opt out of. We're going to be forced to absorb rising workloads and costs here at the local level without any additional federal resources to maintain services for thousands of our residents. I don't want to end on a doom and gloom note and want to try and speak to what we can do about this. Obviously, with proactively planning, getting out in front of this, we're trying to stay ahead of the curve. By addressing and knowing about these local impacts right away, we can be well prepared for legislative advocacy to minimize the impacts on Clay County. For MA specifically, there is a cutout in the federal bill for $200 million of state implementation grants specific to the MA portion that will become available in fiscal year 26. I'm hoping that the state of Minnesota opens that up to counties, because if they do, we will jump at the opportunity to access some of those funds to help support if there is need to bring on additional staff or training costs or system updates. Again, I'm hopeful that this presentation just raises a broader public awareness and we can start that legislative advocacy right away. One of the big things you already hit the nail on the head is that our error rate is 3%. And if we're doing a great job, I don't see why it would be beneficial or why it would make sense for Clay County to have a share in those costs. So it's just one area of advocacy recommendation that I would have for you all. With that, I'll yield for any questions that you may have.
All right. Any questions? All right. Thank you, Quinn. Steve and Lori, 2026 budget update.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
2% increase, we're ready to pass the levy?
Not I'm guessing the answer is no.
Oh.
But just wanted to provide a little bit of a context to the first summary of the 2020 tax, or 2026 tax levy. Annually, each year, we start back in end of May. Our budget department heads complete their budgets. As we've talked, was an extensive discussion this year, which you're going to see in our requests of with the uncertainty of what's happening next year, looking at budgets, looking at new requests. If there's different areas that not only can we not add but cut, we had those discussions, have been having those discussions. Budgets were turned in the third week of June. Lori Johnson has been taking them in and compiling all the information into our first look. And if you recall, historically, what we've done is we've taken that first dump of data and information and provided it to this board. We generally don't provide this information until after we've gone through all of the department head reviews, but given the uncertainty of this year, we determined that we were going to bring it to you a little bit earlier. And so just wanted to go through this levy fund and maybe give you some ideas of where the increases have come from. And then at the end, hopefully this board can provide some guidance and direction as you've done previous years to where you would prefer us to be and we get to work. So when we take a look at our categories, again, we're broken down to general fund proposed based on all of the internal and external requests that have been made to the county this year is $32,112,527. This would be a 10.10% increase. Just to give you some ideas of why that increase is happening in general funds, has to do specifically our steps that we provide our employees. Our employees are our number one, I guess, the backbone of what we do here, and ensuring that we maintain quality staff is something I know this board has made a priority. And so a majority of the general reserve funds is the steps. We also have paid medical leave in this budget of $187,000, which is again 0.44%. Again, please note that this is without knowing what our COLA is going to be next year. This is based on this year's staffing. We have $300,000 of potential insurance increases here as our insurance is set to expire at the end of this year, health insurance. And then we still do have $250,000 for future insurance costs as this board made a determination of this contract that will be hearing in the coming weeks, opportunities of our RFP or also doing our own self-insurance. Last year, this board made the decision to hire an assistant administrator after the assistant county administrator after the budget had been scheduled, and so this is the first year that you will see that within my budget. We also had an internal service increase of $100,000 in the sheriff's department for vehicles and equipment, and as you heard from our IT department, we had $120,000 of a request for internal service and cybersecurity in that department. What this budget does not include is we don't have an exact COLA because we are in the process of negotiating with our 9 unions, and we do not know yet the exact amount of the insurance, what that insurance will be, whether it's an increase, flat, or a decrease. And so that's where in that general fund, those are the big shifts. Lori, actually, yesterday we went through anything in the budget packet. Lori highlighted $10,000 or higher, and we walked through each of those items. And so there are other items that are on a smaller scale, but these are the main pushes in general revenue. Road and Bridge, really, I think here is more of an in and out. Again, we're proposed in $5.812566 million in projects next year. That's a 6.66% increase of last year. The building fund that Joe touched on earlier, $50,000 is there. The request that has come from the library this year is $362,690. That's a 9.05% increase over last year. We are going to have, I did hand out are non-county entities that we've provided funds for in the past. I did provide a handout to see where those adjustments are being requested. And so we will have the library and several of those on your list coming to talk with this board over the next month. Debt retirement, last year we played a interest payment on the DMV. This year we have the principal and interest, so that's $553,901. And again, the county projects, that was a 7-year bond that we took out. This year's payment is $525,788. The last item in our categories is social service fund. The proposed budget for next year with the shifts that we just heard about, both on the state and, well, I shouldn't say, these are more on the state level. A significant number of the shifts that potentially could have happened early on in the legislative session. Some of those did not come to fruition, but there was an adjustment. We'll be hearing from Quinn over multiple, I guess, budget updates here in the coming weeks. But what I can tell you is that Quinn and his supervisors went through their budget when the state shifts were there and made some pretty significant cuts or adjustments to get that to where we are now. And so with that, adding those up, again, you'd have a tax levy of $315,474. You have a document attached in your packet also that highlights the new requests for this year. And the new requests that are impacted by the levy are $106,681. And so within those new requests, we have some increases in other professional services. One of the things that this board talked about last year was the possibility of having a lobbyist. Again, we talked about $25,000 last year. This is something, again, as a board, you would have to determine, but I was approached by several of you that indicated that even though there was great work that was done by Commissioner Mojo, Commissioner Kravinoff, and staff, that undertaking was also pretty time-consuming for those people, and so that would be something to consider. The technology services that I addressed earlier, again, cybersecurity issues, some of the software costs. Prisoner board, juvenile detention, social services is looking for the only real full-time position that we're looking for in the new request is out of social services. As you can see, because of funding, we would actually would be cost neutral. We'd have revenues over expenditures in that area. The next area is solid waste. Again, some of that has to do with our staffing, insurance, and also as Joe continues to tweak what exactly the costs of our facilities are. And so some of these aren't really necessarily true requests as much as they are as adjustments. A juvenile facility is looking at making some adjustments, not in adding staff, but in adjusting staff. As you recall, several years ago, James came forward to hire both a line 16 staff and a line 13. A line 13 staff had lower educational requirements, may have had some great life experience that made them good at what they do. What James is looking at is shifting some of those line 13s to 16s because of the tool belts that they need to do, or need to have in detention as that grows and changes. Who we have taking care of those youth has to adjust a little bit. And so, again, from a COLA perspective, we don't know what that's going to be. We do have a placeholder in here. I think the important thing for the board to understand is based on the snapshot that was taken in April, that 1% COLA adjustment to this budget equates to $421,855. And so with those adjustments, we have that increases the total levy to $56,687,720. Next area is the county program aid. As you recall, in the legislative session earlier this year, there was a significant challenge to look at lessening program aid. Fortunately for us, that did not happen. We're not necessarily going to see a decrease, but we don't know up until August 1st is when they're statutorily required to provide us our program aid. And I think the meetings that you all have been in, we're hoping to kind of just stay even. We're not looking probably to see much of an increase this year. So in this document, Lori used last year's fund to offset that. Again, that county program aid plays an important role for all counties, because what that does is acts as property tax reduction for all people across the spectrum. With that, that has our spread levy at $50,966,909. We have had new construction proposed through Jill at 1.04%, and which would bring a net levy increase to 12.56%. This is fairly consistent to what we've seen on an annual basis when we get that first data dump. Again, it's eye-opening from the standpoint of talking about a 12% increase. As we know, this isn't something that this board would support, and so we would then look to go to work and get your insight and direction as we move forward. And with that, I'd yield for any questions.
All right, well, we'll take this under consideration.
All right.
I'm not seeing any hands up with questions at this point, so.
I have one little one. Explain to me, I probably missed it. You have the COLA of $1 million, or 1.2, and then you have the COLA down below. What's
So what we're doing is just trying to plan to find we wanted to have a placeholder number to have something there, because had we not had a COLA in there, this number would have looked
If you do the simple math, it's 3%.
a lot better. And so the COLA on the top is identifying the 3%. The 1% on the bottom is if it would be anything different than that.
Okay. And then the other question was on insurance. When you say the word insurance, that's the health insurance, or is it liability type thing?
Nope, it would be health insurance that we're talking.
All of it?
Yeah.
Because I noticed maybe it was, it was here. It was that letter you sent out yesterday.
Sure.
You had 300 and then you had 250.
So if you recall, the initial, we're just looking at a placeholder, I think for again, an insurance increase potentially, and that's the 300. Again, that could be higher or lower.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the 250,000 is, as this board kind of came to this year, knowing that our cap of insurance was going to be ending, that we would have to make a decision, and part of that was potentially looking at self-insurance. And so the board has made the determination over the last 5 budget cycles, we've saved that 1.25 million.
Right, okay.
So
I'm with you. All right, thank you.
Did you have a question?
Well, yeah, I just maybe wanted to talk a little bit about fund balance pieces. You know, they kind of have ebbed and flowed, and I know we like to go with what the, you know, the recommendation is on some of these, but, you know, the public health one really seems to have gone up quickly. Can you talk to me that one? I know part of it's with detox. I know there's that piece, but can you talk that through with me?
It's basically all the detox building. And so they had a really good year a couple of years ago. But below that, it does show the portion of the increase that is the detox. I've got the 2023 number and the 2024 number.
Okay.
So basically they've lost money in the last few years, but we've got 15, 16 million in a detox
So in the-
facility that gets added to their fund balance.
So in the 24 fund balance total of 18, then you take the eight out.
And the 5 out. Or
But the 5 would
actually
be for
6.
23 though.
So the total of the 23 and 24, you subtract that, and that would be without the detox building.
I know we've also talked a little bit about, you know, now that we have a standalone building with that, maybe separate parceling that piece out. Do these numbers justify doing something like that?
Well, I think from a, we've worked hard as a county to find out exactly what the costs of our buildings and our departments cost. And so I think that it would be beneficial to break detox off on its own. Lori and I have had conversations both with Troy and with Kathy, and I think that that should certainly be something, once we have a full year of operation, to look at making that adjustment.
Okay. And then maybe my final comment is, I'll agree with you in regards to what that levy increase will not be that. You know, and I would actually probably take it a step further. In years past, we've understood there's kind of some nominal increases that need to happen, but even if I look at this external agency, in my mind, I wrote no or cut on next to a lot of them. And I think that's probably where I'm going to probably land towards the end of the summer is, you know, this is a, not only see reduction in asks, I would probably say this might be a year where we need to cut and maybe prioritize some of the areas where we feel like makes the most sense. You know, the fair just wrapped up, so I'm going to go cost per wear type piece, but where those critical service areas for our residents are, and they're going to be harder decisions. But knowing that folks that are writing out those tax checks are facing those issues too. Thank you.
Well, you know, I mean, I just did some math on the total levy. You know, when you look at before the program aid, you're at a $6 million increase. You divide that by 65,000 people in our county, and it's like $90-some per person increase. Just at the county tax level, that's just not sustainable. You know, so. But I'll have more questions later, and when we get a little further down in terms of, again, revenues over expenditures from previous years. We haven't taken into any consideration there. And when you do that number, if you incorporated that, it's a much bigger number than 12%.
Right.
You know, so, but we have time for those discussions. Ezra, did you have?
My one question was the new construction, what, 1.04%, what is that? I mean, what?
That would just be construction, not added value to existing buildings, but actual new buildings that have been added to the tax base.
So it helps reduce everybody's.
We have more tax base to spread the levy.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. So general public building, building houses and.
Yep.
Okay.
You could probably look at building permits as a good
barns.
example.
Yeah, all right, that's what that means, okay.
Also, as part of the 2-year refund or rebate, correct?
Excuse me?
There's no money being rebated?
That's a separate line item.
We've got $400,000 of rebate money in here.
Okay.
I'll have a better idea exactly what that number is when I get the new values from the city of Moorhead, but I don't have those yet.
Right,
Right.
okay,
But that's an expense line item.
That's an expense line item.
right, okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Steve and Laurie.
Quick question for you regarding Joe's budget. You wanted to see consolidated?
Yeah.
Did you just want the salaries consolidated or everything?
Well, how much work is it to
It's
just,
not that much. It's just that, you know, consolidating the utilities and everything would be consolidating all sorts of different buildings. I mean, it's not a problem to do if you want to see that.
yeah, I just, maybe, it gives us a good idea of our overall increased cost of all of our facilities. And-
Yeah.
No problem.
Thank you, Laurie. All right, we'll move on to our committee reports, and we're kind of really running late again today. So if we can kind of keep our committee reports to committees, and Dave, we'll start with you today.
Hey, thank you. Last Tuesday on the 8th, I met for referenced the discussion we had with Red River Regional Dispatch Center funds with local municipalities, or rural municipalities. Met with Mr. Campbell and Steve, and we discussed what would be coming up. On Wednesday, had a joint Northwest Emergency Communication Board meeting. There's very little, I won't take us down the rabbit hole of some of the things that were discussed. Only thing that directly impacted on our locality was there's been additional busies where the system's kind of overwhelmed with Clay County. That is simply because they're working on an encryption program that puts strain on the system, and that's nothing that can't be worked around. And Clay County was identified as where the new consoles are going, but they've approved the additional consoles for the new dispatch center. And later that day, we had a meeting on emergency services dispatch. This is going to be a conversation that goes forward. There's still an agreement that's in place for the next year and a half. And this is probably a situation we'll discuss at length over the next 18 months. Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, I attended that Thursday. Not a whole lot of essential information there. Friday, I attended the Clay County Government Day at the county fair. Other than the rain, it was a good trip out there, and it's good to see everybody out in Barnesville and get a chance to meet with them and discuss. And that completes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had 2 meetings. The first one would have been last Thursday on the 10th. I had the Class W CD board meeting, monthly board meeting. I'll let Ezra take the top part on the actions on the windbreaks and that, as I wasn't there. But in discussion items, what we heard today with their was detailing of the county budget. There are some programs coming through Bowser that will continue work through statewide dollars for more cover crops. Also a program involving irrigation, ongoing programs that are funded by the Fed and then brought into the state. Also, we got in discussion about precision technology farming, which went into the field days down in Wilkin County, and then a program called Every Acre Counts. And then last thing I'll bring up is there was one buffer complaint on Lake 15 that was talked about with soil and water, but right now that's going to be handled by Matt Jacobson with zoning to make sure that the setbacks are in compliance. And that's my report.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Moser?
Thank you. Last week, I attended a meeting with county staff and Commissioner Campbell on dialogue with the Resource Recovery Center, hoping to come towards some sort of resolution there. Want to remind this board that the numbers for increases that we were just presented with for the budget does not include a major change in Moorhead's participation with that facility. So that is a large piece on that, and then another major issue would be any changes that we'd see on the tipping fee. So hoping that we can come towards resolution positively there. I had a meeting with the AMC Research Committee meeting in regards to projects moving forward for presentation at the conferences, and then also attended a part of the Clay County Government Day at the county fair. That concludes my reports.
All right, thank you. Ezra?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On July 9th, I went to the Wild Rice Watershed meeting where they passed 7 permits, and they discussed the proposed budget, and they would be looking for the watershed, Wild Rice Watershed, and they're looking at a 4.7% increase on the admin side of things, and a decrease overall on the ditch levy. So they'll be having a public hearing in their August meeting, which would be let me bring that up real quick. August 13th meeting, they'll have a public hearing to discuss their proposed budget levy. Then on the 10th of July, I was at the SWCD board meeting where they approved 19 field and farmstead windbreaks. And normally they're done before July, but with how wet it was in June, they had to push some of these into July. And Paul Krabanoff reported the rest, pretty much what happened at that meeting. Then on July 11th, I was also at the Barnesville Fair for the Government Day. I thought it was a very good turnout for people, even if it rained a little bit. It was still a good turnout, I thought. And then last night, I went to the Morkin Township picnic, where there was a couple county staff there. We had the highway engineer there, the sheriff's department was there, myself was there, and the new hire from the Resource Recovery Center was there, and we all gave a little presentation on what's going on at the county. So that was a very good turnout there at that picnic. That's a very good group of people over there that put that on. So that is all my reports, Chair.
All right, thank you. On Tuesday, the 8th, I met with Commissioner Ebinger and Administrator Larson, and I believe Brian Melton was there, along with Sheriff Empting and Deputy Sheriff Chris, regarding having some discussions with our upcoming meeting that was going to be the next day with the small cities regarding dispatch. Then on the 9th, we had Commissioner Mojo mentioned we had a meeting to further discuss the solid waste contract issues with Moorhead. That continues to develop, and we'll see how that goes. And then that Wednesday, the 9th, then we also had the meeting with the small cities regarding dispatch, and as Commissioner Eberger said, we are on year 2 of 3, halfway through year 2 of 3. I will expand on Commissioner Eberger's report to mention that one of our small cities, being Barnesville, basically indicated to us that once this 3-year agreement is up, that they intend to not fund dispatch. That's the position that he gave to us at that point in time. The mayor of Dilworth was also there, and he did not suggest that. But he did suggest that maybe in the next set of agreements that we establish a way where it's phased, the local small communities are phased out of funding dispatch. Both Hawley and Glendon were also there. They kind of remained silent on those issues. They did not show anything. So that's kind of where some of those discussions are going. And, I think if there's a phase-out approach, I think, that's worthy to talk about. But like we mentioned this morning in our discussions when we were talking about the Barnesville ambulance situation, is that we got to look at everything as a big picture. And, if we're going to be asked to take over all the expenses of these things at the local level, and if we're supposed to take over everything that the state is putting down on us, we have to be able to make some changes ourselves. And so I just made sure that they were aware of that. We provide assistance, so we give our small communities funding from our wheelage tax, which we're not required to. We give our small cities money in regards to our SCORE funding, which we're not required to. But those are some of those things what I talked about earlier. That's a collaborative effort that we do things. We do some things for them, and they do some things for us. And so those are things that we will be discussing in the future. So, and then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week, I was in Duluth for their annual conference for the Lakes Country Service Cooperative. Duluth is a beautiful place in Minnesota. It's really beautiful. But I did want to point out that they had, for the second year in a row, they brought back, his name is Eric Thurwanger. He was the keynote speaker for that, and he is incredibly good. I wish that it's something that we have here with all of our people, that we could have him. I'm just not so sure we could afford him. But he is incredibly good, and he has written several books. He's a retired Marine, but he's had just an incredible story to tell, and his enthusiasm and ability to really raise and encourage people was incredible. So that concludes my report. Steve? Nope.
I did forget one.
What's that?
I did forget one. One of my two.
Okay, go ahead.
So last night I was at the Buffalo Red Watershed District. Main things there, they went over 5 cleanouts that are being done, and 2 of them being, one in Holy Cross, one in Kurtz. And there was discussion about the fact that it definitely needed to be done, but how tricky some of the ditches are in that area, which we all know with potential sloughing. But so there was a little talk about that, being careful. There were 2 tiling permits up in Highland Grove Township, and then the Project 82, which is London East Tributary. That project is complete, and that's a little bit north of London and then going south. And then they got a new office assistant down there. The previous one had left and is now working for the county. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, I participated in the meeting that's been addressed in regards to the resource recovery. We had management on the 9th. We addressed some HR issues, talked about budgets. We had an update on acceptable use policy of county equipment. And the 9th had the attorney's pre-budget meeting with Mr. Melton. We had a resource recovery meeting with City of Moorhead that's been covered already. And then also met with the dispatch rural cities that's also been addressed. On the 10th, we did the pre-budget for the West Central Regional Juvenile Center. Participated in the Clay County Government Days on Friday. Again, thanks to this board and also our departments that were there. It seems that each year we take up a few more tables. We'll make sure we get some more tents for the heat or for the rain. So, yesterday participated in pre-budget meetings. Initially was met up to be with the Sheriff's Department. We ended up meeting with Carrie because of an event that the Sheriff's Department had to respond to. And then also met with Ann on a series of HR issues. Did hear from Jill, wanted to make sure I passed on from her budget that the insurance was due to an employee leaving and a new one coming on. That was the decrease. We have the EDC EDA this afternoon. And just a reminder that the FM Chamber Legislative Wrap-Up is Thursday at 4:30. We do have that posted, so you're all able to attend. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Brian? Aaron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Tuesday, July 8th, I had a meeting with Kimberly, Mark, Jill. I don't know why I'm getting feedback on mine. Can I speak? Defective mic. On July 8th, I had a meeting with Kimberly, Mark, Jill, and Lori referenced the judicial security law, which takes effect on when January of '26. That's when they taking information out that from the judicial judges' records when there's data requests. On Wednesday, July 9th, I participated in the managers' meeting as well, a pre-budget meeting with the attorney, a discussion on the path forward for the Resource Recovery Center, which has already been covered, and I had a discussion and meeting with Anna on regarding the benefits renewal. On Thursday, I was out sick. That's exciting. Friday, July 11th, I had a meeting with Steve, a meeting with Kimberly. Kimberly's really been working hard on the online sales. And then we were talking about postage and handling fees that go along with that. Had a meeting with Rory on hosting a partnership for health data on Clay County servers, which we're going to cover in the PIC right after this meeting. And I worked on the union costing sheets. That was on Friday. Monday, we had a pre-budget meeting for the Sheriff's Department, NCCC meeting for our RFP that we're working on, a demo for MetLife and the paid family medical leave module, if we go that route, and continued work on the union costing sheet. And upcoming this week, on Thursday, I have negotiations, the first negotiations for the correctional sergeants and highway. So we've already had three initial negotiations, and then these will be 2 more this week. So that's concludes my report.
All right, thank you. Sarah? Nothing? Okay, all right. We are adjourned.